Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Alright, so let's start by... Yeah, no, we're gonna do... Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see if I can stretch this out. Okay, so my Stream Deck the lights are on, but no one's home, nothing's working, so I have to get used to clicking my sources manually now. Okay, so... Hey everybody! Hey, happy Wednesday. We're playing some games that originally released on the Mattel Intellivision today, which is Mattel Intellivision. It was a console that came out in 1979. It ran through to 1983. It was released by Mattel Electronics, who does not own the Intellivision brand and IPs today. One or more of the programmers who are working with Intellivision at Mattel Electronics, when they dissolved Mattel Electronics and divested themselves of from the video game market, they sort of went to Mattel and bought the Intellivision brand from them and sort of sold it on their own up until 1990, believe it or not. Now, I'm playing this on the Evercade Versus here. So this game is a compilation cartridge, Intellivision Collection Volume 1. Now, Evercade was originally a sort of a handheld system. It plays compilations of games on cartridges. The flap opens up. I've got one. It can hold dual cartridges. The second cartridge here I'm not inserting because you'll see when you insert a cartridge into this thing, it basically I want to get the lighting on there. Good. There we go. It basically treats it as though it uses interchangeable cartridges, but when you use them, it's as though I'm gonna actually turn the system on now. Yeah, for some reason you have to hold the power button for a couple of seconds before it actually turns on. Well, let's start the timer. Oh, and this is... So that's the console. So Evercade originally was a handheld system, and then they released a home console version of the same thing. It plays games off little cartridges that look like this. This is the one that comes with its selection of games that are licensed by Technos. All the games are officially licensed for this. So it's not like a console where you just get a bunch of your own ROMs and dump it on there. These are all just official commercial releases of these games from the current rights holders. This is what the gamepad looks like. It's kind of a big, sort of almost... Like they almost tried to make the most generic controller possible. So they started as a handheld system, then they made a home console version. The ironic thing is that this home console version is basically what the infamous Retro VGS eventually became known as Coleco Chameleon, and then got canceled for having multiple fraudulent prototypes and a lot of insane behavior. And so the Coleco Holdings withdrew their name from it, and the console was canceled. And now it's kind of funny mentioning the Retro VGS or Coleco Chameleon, because nowadays Intellivision is kind of not known for the classic 1979 console, but for the revival sort of project, the Coleco Chameleon, which has been associated with Tommy Tallarico, who is apparently the holder of the Intellivision IP today, and it's been a really weird mess with a lot of drama and nonsense. But they released this cartridge. And this cartridge is actually what they should have done to begin with. I have a... so you insert the cartridge into the Evercade, and you have all this selection of games on here that are on the cartridge, but the cool thing is, if you insert another cartridge, that selection of games comes up as well. So it's basically it's the nostalgia factor of having cartridges, but with the modern convenience factor of having your menu of all your games just ready to select on the go. So let's start with... Now, I'm used to Nintendo controllers. This is a YBAX controller, YBAX. So it's arranged like a Dreamcast controller or like a Microsoft controller, like for Xbox family of systems. I'm used to the Nintendo controllers, which is YABX. And this is... No, XABY is Nintendo, and this is YBAX. So this is kind of hard to keep track of. I keep hitting B, because that's A for confirm on a Nintendo controller, when you actually have to hit A, which is at the bottom, to confirm. So let's start with Astrosmash, which is the first Intellivision game I ever played. Now, the original Intellivision controller had a controller that you held in one hand and used your other hand to press buttons on it. There was a directional disc on the bottom and a numerical keypad on top. Nowadays, you look at this thing, the controller, and are like, what were they thinking? This thing looks like a TV remote. And that's exactly what they were going for, because the only other controller they really had to compare it to at the time would have been the Atari VCS standard controller. Well, you had the joystick with one button, or you had the paddle for certain games, like Breakout. Whereas Mattel Electronics was trying to create a controller that could be used for multiple kinds of games, and also more sophisticated, more complex games than what Atari was putting out at the time on the VCS or 2600. And that's why that controller was the best solution they could come up with at the time, was to use the TV remote as a starting point. Now you hear this, these games are modified to remove all mentions of Mattel. This is the standard title screen for most Intellivision games. In the original version, it would have said Mattel Electronics Presents. Here, instead, they modified it to say Intellivision Presents, because when the Blue Sky Rangers, as they were called, purchased the rights to these games and the console from Mattel Electronics, they did not buy the Mattel Electronics branding. They had to remove all of that from future releases of the system. So, let's get started. So this is a pretty... Hey, For Real Fan, how you doing? Yeah, so this is a pretty... Oh my goodness. This is a pretty rudimentary shooter. This is kind of like a fusion of, say, Space... Oh my goodness. This is kind of a fusion between Space Invaders... Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm going to be saying a lot of oh my goodness in this. Yeah, so it's kind of a fusion between Space Invaders and Meteor. Or no, it's basically Space Invaders meets Asteroids, is what this game is, pretty much. Now, this has an interesting scoring system, where instead of just racking up a score, and then you only have a certain number of ships, or I guess it's not really a ship in the sense that it's flying through space, so I guess we'll call it a cannon. You only have a certain number of cannons, and so instead of just racking up an ever-increasing scores, you destroy targets, and then game over when you lose. You see here it says peak score, because your score is diminished as you miss targets. So missing a target alone, letting a target hit the bottom of the screen, actually deducts points from your score. So it ranks your top score for the session in terms of your peak score, instead of as just your overall score. Now I want to look through this. Now, the first time I played this was in the late 90s when Blue Sky Rangers started releasing home computer emulators, officially authorized home computer emulators. I really think Blue Sky Rangers Intellivision was kind of pioneers in companies releasing officially authorized... you're going to be lurking on off, got to make a food delivery? Got suckered in to deliver us the moon? Alright, well, I hope you... are able to make some progress in getting whatever you need to take care of what you got to take care of. Yeah, Intellivision was, I think, a pioneer in terms of releasing vintage video games. This is in the 90s. So this would be like... This system released in 1979, and this game released... I played it on PC in 1998 or 1999. So in 2021... Let's think of that. Let's go back, rewind to 2019. That would be like a game in 1999, pretty much. Like, so it's not really vintage yet. It's just kind of obsolete. But the Blue Sky Rangers saw this opening in the market where they're like, there are people sending us letters and emails about our old games, and these systems are getting harder to find. So they started releasing these officially authorized emulators on PC, and there were free versions, which was how I first played Intellivision games. And this is the first game I played. Now, I'm very sure that both on my iMac, got to make a food delivery in an hour, but you finally get to explore the moon a bit in it. So you've been driving around aimlessly for the last 2 hours looking at the design, the dev ads? Okay. Okay. So is Deliver Us to the Moon, is that kind of one of those like Niantic type games where your real world locations and travel play into the world of the game? Is it that sort of thing? Now, I've got this, I swear, on PC, it was not this hard. The last time I played this before this was on the Intellivision Flashback, which unfortunately was not HD. If the Intellivision Flashback was HDMI out, I would have been playing Intellivision a long time ago. But the Intellivision Flashback came out in 2014, standard definition, which is actually great for me at the time because I had not owned an HD TV till 2018, and I could just plug it into my tube set, which is how Intellivision was really meant to be played. But playing these games with the original controller was a really... Excuse me, did the system... Okay, it has a screensaver mode on it. And I want to flip through to the instructions for this. Now, there's a little bit of... there's some action... Yeah, these games come in a physical, hard case, as you see here. And there's an actual instruction manual. And for these games, that can be a bit cryptic. It's kind of... I want to take a look at... Alright, they're not different levels of play. Because I swear, this is so much harder to play with this controller than it was playing it with the silly control disc on the actual Intellivision replica gamepad that comes with the... that came with the Intellivision Flashback. No, I swear. With all this nonsense about the Amico and everything, all Intellivision, this right here, this you released, this is what you needed to do. If you want to bring back the old feel so much, either make an HDMI Intellivision Flashback work with games, because even though they have a bad reputation, the Intellivision Flashback and the ColecoVision Flashback were actually really good. Oh, you play it, and for real fans saying in the game that they're playing, you play as an astronaut who starts out actually launching on the rocket. You got to explore everything for the story about what happened to everyone on the space shuttles on the moon. It's set in 2055. Oh, okay. Yeah, so... Yeah, I swear this game is way harder with this thing than it is with the actual Intellivision controller. Which, you'll hear people who never touched an Intellivision controller in their life talk about how it was the worst controller design ever. And you have to think of it at the time they designed it and what they designed it for. This is almost a decade before the Nintendo D-pad was introduced onto home consoles with the Famicom. So there's an auto fire on Y. All right, let's give this another shot. Yeah, so I want to show this real quick. Now, because the original... Oh, for real fencing, for Intellivision, he's only played a handful of games, and at the time this is very ahead of its century. Yeah, this was... and it's funny, you don't think of it this way. In terms of its epoch, it is not a 16-bit console, in the sense of when we think of like the PC Engine, the Sega Mega Drive, and so forth. But the Intellivision system did literally have a 16-bit microprocessor in it. Even though I believe the ColecoVision was actually more sophisticated, this as an 8-bit system, this did have a 16-bit microprocessor. Now, this, like ColecoVision, did have a numerical pad on the base buttons, and by holding on the Evercade controller, or the Evercade handheld if you're playing the handheld version, which does play the same cartridges as this, holding the R1 and L1 bumpers brings up an on-screen numerical pad you can see on the lower left. And by using the D-pad, I can move around the highlighted button, and by releasing on that button, it will serve as though I pressed that particular button. Now, by hitting select... Yeah, by hitting... there's a certain button, I forget which button it is, but that button, once you select a button with the bumper plus D-pad, that key is then hotkeyed to one of the face buttons. So it's a better workaround than I would have imagined for how to play Intellivision games using a completely alien controller. Now I have to... What do I need to do? Do I have to hit... I don't know how to restart the game. Yeah, how do I... Yeah, I don't know how to... So... No, and that's me. Okay, so home, controls. Okay, Y is autofire, starters to pause. The D-pad's to move the laser gun. So do I have to restart the game? Okay. No, okay. I keep... That's me pressing B instead of A, because B is on the right now. And my muscle memory is hardwired for Nintendo controllers, so excuse me. So if I... So let's quick save. Alright, so we'll be able to start from here pretty easily now. Okay. So... Alright. Alright, so the... I don't know, there's just something that... This just doesn't feel like it controls as well as it does with an actual Intellivision controller. Which I know, like... And I have to say, like, Pat and Ian on the... Pat Country and Ian Ferguson on the Completely Unnecessary podcast... regardless of however anyone may feel of them personally or other takes they've had in the past, they've done a good coverage of the out of my entire Intellivision library. What would be my top 5? I've honestly played very little of the Intellivision library, even of my... But I would say my top games would be this, even though I swear this version does not play as elegantly as it does on... with a real controller, with a real Intellivision controller. And this is, I would say, Snafu, which we'll be playing after this probably. Yeah, my top 5, Snafu, Astrosmash, this right here, not necessarily this with this controller. Then Utopia, which is kind of one of the earliest console-based sort of simulation games. It's kind of like a SimCity kind of thing with... Imagine Intellivision running SimCity, and basically that's what Utopia is. I used to play that with my mom a lot on the official PC emulator, actually. Then there's also Pinball. Yeah, Pinball for Intellivision. That's an obvious pick of mine. I'd say Pinball for Intellivision, probably the game I've spent the most time on, aside from Snafu. Oh my... Stop! What do you do? How am I supposed to... Yeah, and the cool thing about Utopia is you can play that 2-player. Single player, you're basically playing as one on... There are always 2 islands being run on the screen at once, which is kind of incredible considering the limited processing power of this thing. And in single player, you basically play as one island and ignore the other, and let it get overrun by bandits or whatever. And in 2-player, one player is managing one island, one player is managing the other. Now, the 2 players could work together or work against each other. And you do simple things like, oh, are you going to spend the national budget on fishing boats or on warships? Are you going to grow crops or build cities? It's very, very simple, but very effective. Now, oh my goodness. Yeah, this is just not... I swear, this is just so much faster paced and not as elegant as the version I played in the Atari Flashback. Now, the interesting thing about the emulator version I played on my iMac back in the 90s, and was that they included a hidden mode in Astrosmash. There's a second mode in this game that actually was pretty much a direct ripoff of... What's the game called? Of Asteroids. And Mattel Electronics was afraid that they would get sued. So they dummied that mode out so you could not access it, but it was still on the cartridge. And they re-enabled that mode when they released it on PC. So I played both modes back then. Now, for real fans saying, sadly, he ended up using an emulator for Intellivision, so he never got to actually experience a proper Intellivision console and the PS2 compilation. Well, it's funny, because I have genuine nostalgia for Intellivision, but it's not... I mean, Intellivision was way before my time. My nostalgia for Intellivision is playing it in the 90s on PC in the context of trying to seek out those old gaming experiences back when you couldn't just, even though that was only like a decade out of date at the time, you couldn't just go on eBay and find an Intellivision. You know, the retro gaming was not a thing like it is now. Even finding out information about these games was very difficult back then. I remember in the 90s believing. I remember seeing an issue of EGM that actually covered retro video games or vintage video games. They had a poster with every console from like the Magnavox Odyssey up into the current day, which at the time was N64, PlayStation, and Saturn. And I remember thinking, wow, like looking at stuff like Vectrex, thinking, wow, this thing must be so rare. I'm never going to see one of these with my own eyes. Now, if I had a few $100, I could just go online, just get myself a Vectrex. I actually got to see a Vectrex in person at a friend's house who's more of a hardcore game collector and enthusiast than I'll ever be, and bless his heart for it. And I actually got to see their Vectrex and see it in person. And I'm telling you, no amount of video footage of that will prepare. It's like the 3DS screen, actually. You will never be able to understand until you see that, until you see it in person. Oh my goodness, I saved over. Okay, so do I have to quit out of this every time to reset it? That's kind of silly. But this is in the age where there's no pause button. You're expected to have the console itself nearby you, so... Did I? No, okay, I actually did. I have to quit out. I have to play. And this time I have to... Okay, save over that file. And now I just start. Yeah, so my nostalgic memories are of PC version. Oh yeah, like the whole era, and this was also, so you had the same magazine too, that's really awesome. The only console you had prior to getting your dad NES was old Atari and just playing Pong. I mean, I remember hearing about Atari from my parents, and it was kind of like legendary, like, because whenever I'd get into something, I'd want to know, what's the history of this, how did this get started? And I remember, like, I grew up in Queens. I lived within like 15-minute driving distance of Coney Island and the amusement park district there. So I remember going to Coney Island, going to the late great Astroland amusement park, on all the little amusement attractions on Surf Avenue, and thinking like, wow, like how did these amusement parks at Coney Island get started? So I ended up watching PBS, and mind you, I'm like 5 years old at the time, watching shows and reading books about the history of the Coney Island amusement district and like 1910s times, how it started as a beachside resort for people who lived in Manhattan, and how these sort of traveling shows and sort of like sea lion shows and stuff like that ended up becoming these bigger and more ambitious amusement parks, like Luna Park, Dreamland, Steeplechase. And so when I got into video games, I want to know, like, how did this, like, my first proper system was Game Gear in 91. I was like, and I asked my parents, like, what was the first video game? How did this get started? And they told me about Atari and about the arcade craze of the 80s, which at the time was only a few years prior to that. But from my perspective at the time, it was like ancient history. And I was lucky enough to, somehow my mother ended up owning a book that must have been written in 1984 or 5. That was a big, thick book chronicling all the fads that had come about throughout the 20th century up to that point. So we're talking about stuff from like 1910s, 20s time, stuff like flagpole sitting, goldfish swallowing, pandy raids, and so forth. And there was a chapter on... The chapter was called Pac-Man and Video Games, and this was written in like 1985, and it's talking about video games in the past tense. It's talking about video games in the sense of something that happened that is no longer around. So they're talking about video games as something literally in the past tense, in the sense of goldfish swallowing, Charlie Chaplin, the flapper look, stuff like that. And I really do, unfortunately I lost that book in a flood, but I do need to try to get my hands on a copy of it again, because by sheer accident, what that book actually is probably one of the earliest books available. This is like in the very early 90s I got this book, and the book was probably 10 years old at the time. I remember when I first was reading the book, it was probably written during it didn't. It's funny, the book didn't actually explicitly mention the video game Crash, but it was probably written in the midst of it. But it was definitely discussing video games in the past tense, as though assuming it was something that was no longer around, or wouldn't be much of a thing in the future, just sort of a fad that sort of came and went, and had its time, and, sort of fell by the wayside. So even at the time I had the book was definitely had a little bit of age to it, but what I realized is this book is probably one of the earliest historical accounts of the North American video game scene. And so I remember reading about the craze of Pac-Man, which once again was not even a decade old at the time that I'm reading this, but by the time I'm reading this, it was definitely come and gone. And so when Pokemon hit, when it hit Japan in 96, I saw, some American magazines mention in passing, there's this popular video game called Pocket Monsters for the Game Boy, and there are 2 versions, and you need both versions to trade to collect all the different monsters, and you can make them fight each other using the Game Link cable. And I was looking at the craze of it, how there was a dedicated store just for Pokemon in Tokyo, how there was a cartoon and comics and all these merchandise, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just what happened with Pac-Man. And so I was very interested in Pokemon before I had any idea that I never thought they'd even try to bring it to North America, because this is at a time before anime was even that big, in the sense that it is, even by the late 90s. We're talking 96, 97. And so I'm looking at this from afar, just sort of saying, this looks like the biggest video game craze since Pac-Man, in a sense. And I did have, I sort of partaken a bit in Sonic Mania, but I don't think the popularity of Sonic there was Mario Mania, which was sort of in that late 80s before I was really following video games, and when I did get into video games, I was more of a Sega kid than a Nintendo kid. So I wasn't too big into Mario Mania, didn't take much note of it. It was a little bit after my time in terms of, by the time I started really caring. When Mario was around, I'd see commercials for NES, the height of Mario Mania. I remember seeing commercials for Kool-Aid coolers, and they'd have tips for Super Mario Bros. 3 on the back of it. And I remember seeing commercials for Super Mario World and Super Nintendo, and it really didn't catch my attention that much. I just knew that, there's an NES, there was a Super NES, there was Mario, and he was, kind of Nintendo's character. And I really thought of video games as just sort of some kind of electronic toy that you plugged, some kind of computer game that you plugged into your TV. I didn't really think much of it. It was that first commercial for Sonic the Hedgehog that really got my attention and made my parents say, whoa, look at this cool thing. And that's when they got me my Game Gear in 91 with the handheld 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I can pause the game. I keep forgetting I can pause the game. You like that documentary about it's funny, I did see the documentary about the E.T. burial site. You always read that E.T. killed the Atari, but when they dug up Pac-Man and other games, yeah, it was just a general inventory dump of unsold games. I only watched that video once. I only watched that movie once. I remember I watched it once when it first came out on Netflix, and I remember the guy he gave George R.R. Martin his DeLorean, and he wanted to borrow back the DeLorean so he could take it to the excavation site. And there were concerns because there was there were a bunch of slaughterhouse carcasses or something that had been disposed of on a layer on top of the video games. They had to make sure it wouldn't be an environmental hazard to try to dig it up and everything. And it's kind of crazy how by sheer coincidence, I think the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which I still have not seen, I do need to see that sooner rather than later. The Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which concerned digging up the ET cartridges from the Nevada inventory dump in Alamogordo, ended up coming out or was being filmed around the same time that they were filming the documentary and actually found the real cartridges in the dump. Okay. You still got... Yeah, I still haven't seen that movie. It's kind of I know it's not going anywhere, so there's no serious hurry. And because of that, I still have not watched the Angry Video Game Nerd review of the E.T. video game. Because I know the review is sort of an excerpt from the movie, so I didn't want to spoil the review within the movie itself. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I swear there's something about this game that just plays better with the actual disc. I feel like I could play this game for like an indefinite period of time and do a lot better at it. Yeah, so this game, as you can see, this game is by design. You are destined. You are like, by design, you will not be able to hit all of these targets. You have to prioritize the targets you're able to safely go after, and have it work out so that you're gaining more points from taking out meteors than you're losing as a result of... Yeah, you have to take out more than... you have to get more points than you're losing, because there's no way you could get all these meteors. We're getting... I think we're closing in on 10,000 for the... Oh my gosh. 9470? Okay. Yeah, so there's more of an emphasis on... Yeah, it's not too hard to do well for... Get a good stretch going and start winning back some fighters. Yeah, it's just those... The white... The things that look like a hurricane symbol. It's those white bomb things. Those are the ones you absolutely have to take out, or you will automatically lose a cannon when they hit the ground. Yeah, no, there's also... Let's see. Let's look at the controls. There's a hyperspace, which is the X button. Yeah, that just randomly warps... That just warps you to a random spot on the screen, which is something I really do need to be taking advantage of. So if there's like no chance to escape a certain... You know what? I just realized smart bombs, maybe I could use the hyperspace to... Oh gosh, I got taken out before the... Okay, so... Oh! I did not trigger my hyperspace in time. Okay. Oh! No, that's not happening. I tried to be cheap, and, yeah, I do love... Now, Angry Video Game Nerd kind of alludes to this in one of his... I think his Atari 5200 episode, maybe? Where he talks about, like... Those certain games, like he talks about Atari 2600 specifically, and I think 5200, but this has that quality too. Those games, you gotta play it on an old, like an ancient, like early to mid 80s little tiny TV with the bunny ears on top. You gotta be in the glow of that cathode ray tube late at night with the sound of crickets chirping and nothing else going on in the house. Just the sound of, like, the oil burner running or whatever. And the sound of crickets on a late summer night. Maybe the sound of a fan going if you have a house without air conditioning. And playing this, being in the glow of the ray tube, and just being in the glow of the screen. Every time the screen changes colors, the entire glow of the entire light that's bathed in the room just changes. It's that really moody atmosphere. I love it. And you get that feeling... this is why, even though I do regret that I now regret that the Intellivision Flashback was not HDMI native. My Atari Flashback is actually... Hey, Kalaka boy, may the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day. Yeah, happy Star Wars Day to you too. I heard, did the trailer for Kenobi come out today? I don't really care about Star Wars stuff. I mean, I care about it enough that I saw all this, like, I saw all the I saw Star Wars Special Edition in theaters back in the 90s. I saw the sequel trilogy, and then I watched the prequel trilogy and Rogue One in theaters. 15 to 7. Wait, hold on. Actually, 16. I'm gonna make a note of that. 16475. 16475. Okay. Please do not. Okay, I almost erased my entire spreadsheet with all my stuff on it. Okay. How about... Okay, there we go. 16475. Let me just make sure my my frames are running good. Am I streaming AD&D? I'm probably gonna give that a shot. I'm probably gonna dig that up and give that a shot in the last like half hour of the stream. But we also are later on going to be trying out some. We're going to be watching a bunch of vintage and a bunch of historical stuff about a bunch of period videos about the Intellivision itself. You know, old promotional videos for the system, modern and even period interviews with some of the creators. I found some home videos. Well, I guess home videos like made with a camcorder back in 1984, like of the offices of Mattel Electronics at the time, of the programmers. I've never actually played. Hold on. Is AD&D even on here? I think they might have. If AD&D is on here, they had to change the name. I don't think they have a license for that anymore. Snafu. No, yeah, AD&D isn't on here. Wait. This isn't on here. That game isn't on here. Unfortunately, that game isn't on here, so I'm probably gonna have to resort to PC emulation or something down the line for that. Right now, I'm limited only to the games that are included on the Evercade Intellivision Collection 1, which just came out a couple of months ago. And this month, a second collection is supposed to be coming out. Given the extremely perilous nature of the modern Intellivision company, I'm not sure if it's coming out or not. I hope it does, because this Evercade Intellivision Collection, Volume 1 and Volume 2, are the only legit game products the current version of Intellivision has ever put out under Tommy Tallarico's leadership, or misleadership, some would say. The Intellivision is just there's like a whole couple of generations of people whose primary exposure to Intellivision is all this drama and mismanagement and shady behavior around the whole Intellivision Amico project. And it's so people like have are getting a negative impression of the original Intellivision based on how the current rights holders are managing or mismanaging the brand, which is an absolute shame. Like, Pat and Ian, they've done Pat and Ian of the Completely Unnecessary podcast. Pat being Pat Contry, Pat the NES Punk, and his co-host Ian Ferguson. There are lots of they're pretty polarizing people, and I don't agree with everything they say. I may or may not like them personally. I think their show is entertaining enough that I listen to it because I'm interested in what they have to say and how they present it. But they've done really good coverage of the Intellivision Amico from when they first announced it, and they were just really skeptical, didn't think it had much of a chance, and then it went from just them being skeptical of it to them being openly hostile towards it, as Tommy Tallarico has been doing a lot of making weird personal attacks against people, getting offended over rather reasonable criticism of the project and how it's being run. And so there's just been this feud between Tommy Tallarico and the Completely Necessary podcast and people who've just made various criticisms of them. Now, it became a sort of a thing where maybe some people think it's fashionable to be seen hating on it or reporting on drama related to the Amico, or trying to find drama where there may not be drama. There's more than enough actual drama not to have to make stuff up or try to blow things up for spectacle's sake. But I think their coverage overall has been very good, but it's created this atmosphere where I've seen a lot of people commentating on the Intellivision Amico saying, well, the original Intellivision was a flop and everyone hated it, so they're insane for trying to bring it back like almost 50 years later. And like, there's this narrative that the original Intellivision flopped. Yes, it was not a long-lived console. It got absolutely creamed by the Atari VCS and even the ColecoVision, which wasn't the most long-lived system itself. It got more traction than the Intellivision did. But between 1979 when it's released and up until 1983, which is or 84, which is when the Mattel Electronics ended their support for Intellivision, and it sort of spun off into its own company, INTV, being managed by, I believe, the Blue Sky Rangers themselves. In its heyday, the Mattel Intellivision sold more than 3 million hardware units, which, in terms of a video game console today, is absolutely pathetic. And you'd see, like, oh, only 3 million units. Like, the doggone Wii U, Nintendo's worst-selling system, was considered a disaster at 13 million units, and the Intellivision only sold 3 million. But you have to think, okay, it's the late 70s, early 80s, at a point where the home video game market is as much of an offshoot of the toy industry. It's more, the home video game market was more of an offshoot of the toy industry than an established marketplace in and of itself. So, like, in its day, it was doing well in terms of sales and in terms of selling as a toy. In terms of the toy market, the Intellivision was doing okay for a while. Now, in terms of keeping up with and surpassing Atari, oh, no way in heck. And when it could not get that momentum going, sales started petering off. Mattel packed it up and exited the market, and they were able, and it was to the point where Mattel's own employees effectively were able to buy the company or buy the Intellivision assets and intellectual properties from Mattel and continue managing it as their own company. Now, Mattel, INTV as the company was called, they were selling the backstock units of the Atari, Coleco. Every other system except for the doggone Intellivision. So, INTV, they were selling the remaining backstock of Intellivision systems, as well as backstock of the Intellivision 2 system, which was a redesigned version of the Intellivision. Now, this is also true with the SG-1000 in Japan, where the concept of, like, Sonic Prime, I won't be I'll be real, I won't be probably subscribing to Netflix just for Sonic Prime. But the teaser was cool. I mean, it's basically just what I would have expected of the first proper animated Sonic since Sonic Boom, which was a bit of a spin-off of the mainstream Sonic continuity, which is ironically more successful than the actual Sonic Boom games themselves. Yeah, so INTV, they sold the remaining backstock of... Oh, that's what I was getting at. The Intellivision 2. Now, the Intellivision 2 is not a successor platform to Intellivision. The Intellivision 2 is just a redesigned Intellivision. Just like how there's a redesigned Super Nintendo, a redesigned NES, a redesigned PlayStation later in the system's life, to cut costs and make it easier to continue to manufacture the system for people coming in later into the product's lifespan who wanted a lower price point to attract people over into buying the system. The SG-1000, Sega's first home system, that was a product that also... Yeah, that was also a system that had a... There was the SG... It was called, I think, the Sega Mark II. And so the Mark II was not a successor system to the SG-1000. The Mark II was a redesign of the SG-1000. Then they came out with the Mark III, which was actually a full-fledged successor system in the sense of, like, the NES to the Super NES, PlayStation to PlayStation 2, Wii to Wii U, and so forth. That in the sense we'd have today. So Intellivision 2 was not a successor system to Intellivision. You're just glad, for real fans saying, you're glad Sonic Origins wasn't what they made it sound like with their big chart they put out. According to GameStop employee, the extra tiers are just unlocked from the start. Everything available from the base game. Okay. I didn't think that, wasn't aware of any chart or any concern that there might be things hidden behind paywalls within Sonic Origins. And now, in regards to Sonic Origins, I think it's kind of lame that that Sega is delisting most versions of most standalone digital downloads of their games. 13570. Yeah, they're delisting most digital storefront versions of Sonic, the Genesis era Sonic games. I think that's lame. That's kind of a Nintendo tier thing to do. I mean, if Sega's going to copy Nintendo, it should be only in the sense of making AAA award-winning, knock it out the park revivals of classic systems. I mean, of AAA knock it out the park 3D platformers of their signature character, which is something Nintendo's good at doing with Mario. It's not something that Sega has had the best luck with Sonic. And so I think it's lame that they are delisting a lot of digital versions of the Genesis era Sonic games in favor of, I guess, trying to funnel people into buying this new collection that's coming out. But what I will say also is that if I do get Sonic Origins, it will be specifically and only so that I can have access to a copy of Sonic CD. Because I already own the cartridges for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, 3, and Sonic & Knuckles, as well as Sonic 3D Blast. The only Genesis-era Sonic game I do not own the original copy of is Sonic CD. And I can play all those cartridges of those other Genesis Mega Drive Sonic games using my Analog Mega SG, and I can just pop the cartridge in and stream it, like just as simple as you're seeing right now. Which is something I do need to get put on my my schedule sometime in the within the year, maybe. We'll see how that works out. But I will not get now the Mega SG is compatible with the Sega CD, but I will not buy and maintain a Sega CD console specifically for Sonic CD. And frankly, Sonic CD is the only Sega CD game I'm interested in owning or playing. I mean, not to say that's the only worthwhile game, but that's the only game I'm interested in, frankly. So I will buy Sonic Origins just for access to an official copy of Sonic CD. Now, For Real Fan is saying there were animated icons on the menu, extra music, and a bunch of other stuff. They made it sound like it was locked behind the premium digital deluxe version. The employee said they were investigating it, and in their paperwork for the pre-order, everything could be unlocked as you play and complete challenges. Yeah, Sonic CD was on the Sega CD. Sonic CD and Echo, the only two you're interested in. Yeah, there was a cartridge release of Echo the Dolphin as well. I don't have the cartridge for Echo the Dolphin, but I do own Echo the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis Mini. The good version of the Sega Genesis Mini, not those little crappy games versions with the horrible sound emulation, like the good version that they made to compete against like premium systems like the NES Classic Edition and Super NES Classic Edition. Echo on there's a 32X Sega CD and cartridge release for Echo. That's pretty wild. Now I have not played Echo the Dolphin, but I've heard some, not within game, but apparently there's some real life inspiration that might have went into Echo the Dolphin. And it's really interesting and really messed up and kind of disturbing. And I've heard that there's spoilers for Echo the Dolphin. And so I've stayed spoiler free for Echo the Dolphin. And so I'm very interested to see what there is to discover in this game that is considered like, I've seen people like Echo the Dolphin spoilers below. I'm like, okay, like since the early 90s, I've just thought of it, oh, it's a game where you swim around as a dolphin. Like it just looked like a cute dolphin game. Like what is there to be that can be messed up in this game? And then I've heard some of like the real life stuff that may have inspired parts of Echo the Dolphin. I don't know what, because they did the game. The video I watched didn't talk about the game itself. It talked about real life stuff that may have inspired elements of Echo the Dolphin. I'm like, what the heck is going on with this game? There's actual, like, potentially, like, messed up stuff that could have inspired parts of the game? I don't know. So, okay. Look at me. I did not think... I mean, come on. I'm playing Intellivision. And Intellivision is a system where I've seen people nearly old enough to be my parents that will barely put up with any of these games will be hard-pressed to say anything generous about this system and its games. Even I didn't think I'd be sitting up here for 50 minutes. Okay, we'll play... Hold on. Okay, well, I'll set the timer on the here. Let's go for 10 minutes more. 10 minutes more, and we'll move on to the next game. That's what you thought near... And then near the end from what you saw in a speedrun video that made you go WTF. Okay. And Echo Tides of Time was messed up out of the gate. Okay. I mean, because I've played some games. Like, because I heard of Undertale not long after it came out. And I just knew it was something Earthbound inspired or something. I didn't know much about it. And then... Okay, I had a retail job at one point. This is like this is like around the time the game came out. I had a retail job while I was in college. And okay, now this is a little complicated. My friend's brother's now ex-boyfriend. I was at a retail job. He ended up getting a job at the same place. And so my friends who I met in college, his brother's current boyfriend at the time, knew me through those various connections. And when you think of like a stereotypical I mean, you can see the tags on my stream, so I'm not saying this out of spite. But when you, and I'm saying this out of first-hand experience, when you think of like a stereotypical, cliche, like annoying furry with bad social skills, it was literally this specific person. Was basically the embodiment of like that whole like cliche or stereotype. And when I'm at break at that job, it was a very high-stress, fast-paced retail job where I have to I'm on a big, loud warehouse with loud noises where I'm constantly being bombarded with people. I handled it well, as a high-functioning autistic person, or as so they say. The whole high-functioning, low-functioning thing is, has a lot of debate to be had within it. But anyway, so when I'm on a break, I'm like sort of sealing myself off from the outside world. I'm putting in in-ear earplugs and then putting in an ear protection headset over that, not to listen to music, just to shield myself from all the nonsense, all the sensory noise that's around me for just a good 15-20 minutes during my precious break time. And so this guy shows up, shoving his phone in my face. Hey, look at this, like, oh, you're gonna love it. They're furries in it. Da da da. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't deal with this right now. Please leave me alone. So I kind of ended up thinking of, and because the sort of negative cliches about Undertale were already around because of people being overly pushy about trying to get other people to play the game, and so I sort of. Before I even really was aware of the online sort of stigma that the game had as being that annoying game, that annoying furry Earthbound inspired indie game, without even being exposed to that context, I kind of was already sort of had a bit of a, I'm like, yeah, it looks interesting, I'll check it out sometime. And then years later, I finally played it, and I was like, okay, like, the guy who was trying to shove his phone in my face, getting me to play it, like, he probably should have to pay, like, reparations to Toby Fox, because, like, I would have paid for this game, like, years earlier if him was not my first exposure to this game, frankly. Because I associated the game with being annoyed, because he was the one who was, like, shoving it in my face, trying to get me to play it. No, tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. Will I be enjoying some Mexican cuisine? Frankly, probably not. And, then Echo Jr. came out for a spin-off. It was cute, just swim around, finding baby sea life, bring them back to their parents. And if real fan I tried avoiding everything about Undertale until you played it, but it was everywhere and you went, I can't be bothered since people spoiled it over and over. Yeah, I got to play Undertale. Basically, all I knew was, like, okay, it's Earthbound inspired somehow. And what sold me on Undertale was the bullet hell like shooter mechanics in the battle system. Because I'm not that big of a JRPG type guy. Like I played Earthbound, I enjoyed it. I played it once and enjoyed it once. You know, I never completed a numbered Final Fantasy from beginning to end. I play Pokemon games. I play Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi, those action command sort of base battle systems. Those I enjoy so much more. 16,535. Yeah, that's our high score today so far. Yeah, I enjoy those so much more than typical RPGs. Now, there are traditional JRPGs I will play someday, but having that that sort of bullet hell space shooter derived battle system was what sold me on Undertale. That's the reason I played it. And so I played it, and I actually enjoyed it. And I heard that somehow the game is messed up. I know it was like a playstyle matters kind of game where, decisions you make sort of impact how your experience, like how the ending is. I sort of knew that much. But then I actually played it. I'm like, okay, And then I got to the end, like the what they called the neutral ending. I got to the final boss of the neutral ending, and I'm like, what the heck? This is like full creepypasta, like stuff happening in this game that actually genuinely freaked me out. Like I had the ending for the gimmick of the final battle for Earthbound kind of spoiled for me. I kind of learned about it. I didn't think I'd ever actually play the game to the end, so I kind of learned about it. And frankly, you almost have to be spoiled for the end of Earthbound to understand how to beat the final boss. So I always was very very admirable. I always admired the way they Shigesato Itoi wrote the ending of Earthbound, how they used the sort of mechanics of the battle system, the fourth wall breaking elements. So I always kind of wished I could have gone back and wish I wasn't spoiled for how the final battle works and how it plays out in the fourth wall breaking elements. So when I played Undertale for the first time and got to the initial neutral ending, I was genuinely freaked out to the point where I'm like, okay, I had to step away from the computer and take a walk for a while. And I was like, okay, I'm genuinely freaked out where stuff that happened in the game kind of got my adrenaline pumping and had me kind of actually disturbed. And so I was really enjoying that aspect of it. But the point of all that was, why was I talking about Undertale? Why was I talking about that? Why? I don't even know why I was getting into that. Somehow I got onto Undertale, and yeah, so Final Fantasy VII, that's a game I played when it came out on PlayStation. I never beat it, but I have a lot of nostalgic memories of about the first half of the first disc, because that's only as far as I ever got with playing with my brother back in the 90s. Now, I have the full game spoiled for me. In fact, recently, I was watching Harbus here on Twitch. They were streaming Final Fantasy VII. They played the entire game. And now, actually, they're doing a slow burn playthrough of FF7 Remake that they do on alternating Sundays, it seems to be. They'll do it on Sundays if they feel like it, because it's kind of one of those games they have to be in a particular mood. So if they're in the mood to interact with chat more, he'll actually just go ahead and play something else instead. And frankly, it's not like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Final Fantasy VII Rebuild or whatever they're going to call Part 2. It's not like that's going to come out anytime soon, so they might as well take their time with it. Man, I'm tearing it up. Look at this. Look at this. Woo! Yeah, good thing for auto-fire, because I would be I'd be at genuine risk of injuring my hand if I was mashing the button this quickly. Real Fan is saying that you remember playing FF7 a year or so after release, got about halfway through, then you heard kids at school spoil a huge part of the game, and you're like, things are spoiling it, now you don't even want to play part of it. No, it's funny, before I even played the game, I knew some of the biggest spoiler of the game, because frankly, Squaresoft basically advertised the game as Final Fantasy VII, the game where X happens, and it's a huge shock. Like, they were basically selling the main spoiler of the game, in mainstream advertising for it. Now, okay. Woo! Okay, no, I got taken out. So, actually, now let me disable this timer. It only has 6 seconds left on it. We'll play through the rest of this session and move on to another game. We'll move on to something else. Yeah, yeah, I don't know how many people... Yeah, I just like simple games. I'm sorry. I know I've spent... There was a period where my main game I was streaming was doggone... Take that. There we go. Yeah, there was a point where the main game I was streaming was Nintendo versus Pinball. And I could stream this for hours too, as you see right here. Now, oh shucks. And shoot. Okay, I'm gonna chew through these through here, and yeah, oh, did you see how I warped right? Oh, I got taken out a few seconds later anyway, but yeah, I warped right in front of that. I was like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm over here, so if I use hyperspace, I'm most likely gonna end up over there. And I calculated, I took the gamble, and it worked off perfectly. I didn't last much longer on that particular fighter after that. But, man, I need to stop running. I need to learn to accept that there's a large number of these that are destined to I'm destined to miss a large number of these. Because, once again, your scoring system, you lose points for each meteor that passes. It's not like my instinct is to still treat this like a typical game of this nature, where you absolutely need to get every single one. If one hits the bottom, you lose a cannon. That's not how this game works. You lose points when targets at the bottom of the screen, in terms of the normal meteors. You know, it's kind of funny. This also is a very non-violent game. You're not killing anyone. You're not even killing aliens or alien ships or alien monsters. You're really just defending the planet from all these falling meteors. Now, they are smart bombs coming at you, but you're not shooting whoever's dropping these bombs at you. You are just taking them out and protecting yourself. You know, it's funny. This game should have been called Defender more so than the actual game Defender, because in Defender, yeah, you rescuing humans. But you are, destroying alien ships. So there is an element of combat, of violence in this. Whereas here, this is genuinely a purely defensive game. In terms of the moral fabric of this game. So if you're, had hardcore, Biomutant, people were talking bad about, saying it was just a terrible RPG, boring, and it's for furries, and you played it, and every minute of it wasn't the best thing, but it was interesting and fun and interesting to me. It's kind of funny. I don't know. I find it odd how, something like, and I'm not trying to, whatever people want to think about a game, whatever. I'm not trying to, defend any particular game. If someone doesn't like a game because of the way it looks, or because they don't like certain character designs, or whatever, I don't care. That's your thing. There are a bunch of games I don't play and will never play just because I don't like first-person shooters that much, for instance. But I find it interesting how, something like, Ratchet and Clank, or Banjo-Kazooie, or, Ukulele, those games that are, well, I guess especially, Ratchet and Clank, I guess, is the biggest mainstream example lately. That's not considered, a furry game. It's considered, a mainstream game. But then, if someone like Toby Fox makes a game that has a bunch of monsters and creatures in it, somehow that's considered a furry game? Because it's from a small... Because it's a small... it's like if a big enough company, if a major corporation is behind something, then it can be considered mainstream. But if it's something from a smaller creator that doesn't have a multi-million-dollar company behind it, then it's considered like furry, I guess. It's odd how those distinctions come about. I don't know. Okay, alright. And I say that, and I'm not saying that to defend Ratchet and Clank. I have not played a single game in that series. I have no dog in that fight. I just know, because my PlayStation 2 broke right before all those games came out. So, in fact, I remember I borrowed my friend's copy of Kingdom Hearts. I got home, and, well, and plus, that's also the generation where I owned GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation. I owned GameCube, the original Xbox, and PlayStation 2, and I had enough games through all three systems that there are a lot of great games on all three that I missed. Sodor lore reading. Oh, for real fan. I'll get back to Balan Wonderworld in a moment. Actually, okay. So we're gonna go to, I have to manually do this now because my Stream Deck isn't working. Alright. So we are going to learn, so we are going to read, because Clackaboy redeemed the Sodor lore reading redemption. We're going to learn a little bit more about the lore and mythology of the island of Sodor, which is the setting for Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. So, the Arlesdale Railway runs from Arlberg west along the old route of the Mid-Sodor Railway to Arlesdale. At Arlesburg West, connections can be made between it and the Arlesburg branch of the Northwestern Railway. Miniature engines, which run on the 15-inch minimum gauge track, live and work on the railway, and their line is mainly used to transport waste materials from several of the abandoned mines at Arlesdale for use as ballast. But it also attracts popularity due to the novelty of being pulled by a 1/3 scale steam engine. The engines also transport wool for making clothes. From Arlesburg, the line stops at Arlesburg Bridge Street. After that, the line runs between river and road. After 1.5 miles, a post will be seen standing on the right-hand side of the track, with a disc above it that gives a warning that a passing loop is ahead. The line calls at Farquhar Road. A few hundred yards east of the station, the line swings toward the river, and on the right-hand side, as it curves away to the northeast, there stands an old watermill, and the line later reaches Marthwaite. So that is a little bit of information about the route of the Arlesburg Railway, which was built upon part of the former right-of-way of the closed Mid-Sodor Railway. So thank you, Clackaboy, for redeeming your premium tokens to learn more about the island of Sodor. And yes, what you just listened to was actual canonical lore from the source material for what we now know as what became known as Thomas and Friends, which is now Thomas and Friends All Engines Go, which is a complete travesty and completely abandons all the real-life railroading history and influence or world-building dating back to 1945, because they decided, Mattel, who owns Thomas and Friends, decided that they'd rather dangle some keys in front of modern children instead of actually make a show about trains, which is what Thomas started as. It was stories about railroads. And they decided that kids don't want stories about railroads. They just want to see goofy, arbitrarily train-shaped creatures that might as well be talking cats or dogs or something like that. But whatever. Can you tell I'm bitter about the direction that Mattel has taken the Thomas and Friends franchise in? But anyway, so we're gonna finish this round and move on to Snafu for at least 45-ish minutes. Oh, man, we're getting torn apart. Man, our score. Look how our score is in the. Oh man, our score is dropping rapidly. As I wonder what our peak score is going to end up being, because our final score is judged by our peak score, not by our final score. Got to head out. Love the lore reading. Learning a lot about the history of Thomas prior to the show. Okay, 19,550 is our final score today for. And that is our. And that is our final score. So thanks, For Real Fan, for dropping in. Always appreciated. I hope the rest of your day goes as well as you could possibly hope. Now, we are going to exit out of here. We're going to quit. And by the way, this is the controller I'm playing with. We're going to quit the game. Yes, because I keep pressing B because this is mapped like an Xbox controller or a Dreamcast controller. It is not. I'm used to Nintendo controllers, which is XABY. Here it's YBAX with okay, so we got to go B to go back. Now let's play Snafu. And check the rest of the VOD when you get back in tonight. All right, great. I hope the rest of your day goes good. Now Snafu, you can see from the box art here. Now this is a game. I don't know if this is if there are earlier games than this. But this game is basically, when you see it, it's like, okay, this is the Snake game from Nokia smartphones in the late 90s and early 2000s. But there is actually no mode that actually works like that. You'll see how it works. So I'm going to read a bit of the history of Snafu. Now, the manual here reads a bit. Now, I actually learned some information about Snafu here. Snafu. This game came out in 1981, and it was programmed by Mike Minkoff, and at this era, like, it's very common for games to have only a single programmer behind the entire thing. But the music was composed by Russell Leiblich, I'm not sure exactly how to say that, who became known for his work on cult classic 8-bit home computer game Master of the Lamp. So this game has a separate composer and a programmer. So this is one of... No, actually, I need to keep this manual handy, because this is one of the games where we're going to use the keypad that would have been on the Intellivision controller, because this... many games of this era had a number of variations to them, where you could play in many different styles. So you look at this, there's a little chart here telling you what to input. So let's see, we want to play mode, how about game 11? Yeah, we want to play mode 11 when we go into this. So you press A and not B. So Snafu. So select game. Now obviously the Intellivision controller had a keypad resembling a television remote, a numerical keypad. This controller has no keypad on it. I wish I could, like, honestly, with all this drama about Intellivision Amigo trying to resurrect Intellivision's mod system, all they had to do was release a download compilation similar to this here, make a digital version for Nintendo Switch and other systems, and have a Bluetooth or USB connect, an optional USB replica Intellivision controller that you could plug into the system as an optional controller to replicate the original feel of the hand controller. Because honestly, you do lose a lot by not having that original controller. People who never touched it will say it's the worst thing ever, but all right. So to simulate not having the keypad as a replacement, you hold the bumper, which makes the keypad come up on screen on the lower left. And with the D-pad, and this controller has the sort of shield-type D-pad. It doesn't have the separate cross plus shape switch. Like, there's more like a Genesis Mega Drive type controller, as opposed to the traditional Nintendo type. But we're gonna go with what did we decide on? Mode 11 here. Yeah, we're gonna play game 11. So we just type in 1 1. And scroll over to E for enter. And how many rounds? Let's play 10 rounds. 1 0. And yeah. And enter. Okay. So this mode. Hold on. I gotta turn up my personal volume for this. I balanced my microphone and the game audio, so it should be balanced for all of y'all watching already. But come on, this music. Like, oh, come on. I'm the blue snake, by the way. So what I'm doing here, I chose mode 11. They have a lot of obstacles here to keep things fresh. Now, if he had gone down instead of up, he could have prolonged this match a lot. The AI in this is unfortunately not very smart. So there are two music tracks in this game, which is, I mean, if you're going by Atari standards, you're lucky to have even just a few notes at the beginning of the game for any form of music. So I'm deliberately going to prolong this. Oh, see, like, the AI, I think, makes random turns here. So there are modes where you can have up to 4 snakes rolling around. And I just go one-on-one, and lots of cool obstacles to make the whole process a little more interesting. It seems like a 50-50 shot as to which of the 2 musical tracks will play during your match. But I love this music. But this is my second... I mean, there are only 2 tracks, music tracks in this game, and this one is my second favorite. My number 1 is the track we heard the first time around. See, look, he keeps boxing himself in. I wish I had another human being to play this with. Oh, I accidentally ran into the obstacle there. Man, really, I love how the music just really sets the tone for this. Playing this, which I'm not trying to pretend I've never touched an original Intellivision console, but I got the Intellivision Flashback, which is compatible only with HDMI, only with a tube TV. I mean, it's standard def out, you know, because they're being cheap with it. Oh, I love this. This is my favorite track. I love this music. Oh my gosh. Now, can I survive long enough for the computer not to make some kind of quintessential mess up? Oh no, he's already bamboozled himself. I wish I had if I had another human being. I wish I could play this online. I also would love if there was an actual mode in this which was the actual Snake game that you would expect this to be, where you start around short and go around, you know, picking up pieces of food and navigating around, just trying not to run into your tail as it gets longer and longer with each piece of food that you eat. Yeah, you're trying to draw formations that will force the player to crash into something. But when you're playing with a human being especially, if you were to actually get trapped, you can still hold on, hope that if you can survive long enough for the opponent to make a critical mistake, you can get it can get much more interesting than it is here. Now, Angry Video Game Nerd, in the James Rolfe review is the Angry Video Game Nerd of, it was a dual review of ColecoVision and Intellivision. And he covers this game, he basically, I think he just describes it as basically that Snake game on old mobile phones. I don't think he calls, okay, that was 10 rounds already. Alright, so let's, that was mode 11? Yeah, let's play mode 11 again. Okay, so... Okay, I keep pressing the wrong thing. I have to do in the keypad. Mode 11. And no, okay, not. I have to not. Nope, I have to hit 1-1. No, there's no mode 41. I have to hit clear. 1-1. Then E. How many rounds? Well, let's make it 20. Yes, we're doing 20 more of these. You wanted to see Intellivision, this is what you're getting. So we're gonna, after this. No, when I'm holding an actual Intellivision controller in my hand, I do not do this. And if I never experimented with using it, but I have a standard, like a red, yellow, white cables to HDMI adapter. And when I get my Intellivision flashback out of storage at the state where I used to live, which is like a more than 10-hour drive away, and I don't have it with me, and I have a small apartment where I'm at now, so my storage unit's back in my old state. I still have friends over there. But when I get that thing... No. When I get that thing out of storage, I will use that converter thing. There we go. I actually think I put 15 when last time... Look at that! This round could have gone so longer. Yeah, so I will... And honestly, any element of... any element of artifacting or wavy lines or whatever, I'm just going to chalk up to being part of the authenticity of playing an original system. Or if though I was streaming it off of an original system. Here we go. And I'm gonna cut you off right here. Have fun on yours. Oh my gosh, I got cocky and I actually ran into the wall. That was not on purpose. Yeah, I wonder what it would be like to actually play this with... Okay, he didn't try to take the aggressive turn, because he could have potentially boxed me in down there. If all I do is do this, he's going to run out of space way before I do. Oh no, I tried to... Man, making those sharp turns, and I'm telling you, even using that disc on the original Intellivision controller, it is not as bad as people say it is. And, and for real fan, he's gone now, but they'll be seeing this in the VOD. Talking about Balan Wonderworld, about how people, it became fashionable to be seen hating on the game without having played it. And whatever, I mean, that game has problems, right? I've never played it. I'm just judging on, people who've played it and actually aren't just trying to get attention by doing angry video game nerd style over-the-top takes about it being the worst game ever made. The game, even people who will vouch for the game will say, this has problems, it should not have shipped like this, it needed more time in development. But, so now, like there's stuff where Yuji Naka is potentially suing Square Enix over the way the development of the game was handled, it being rushed, him being kicked off of the development team multiple times, a bunch of drama. I'm sorry that happened to him. I am. That being said, there are things that have come to light about things Mr. Naka did in the 90s, especially to non-Japanese employees of Sega, that are just really messed up, and like he's personally gotten at least 2 Sonic games, Sonic Extreme and the Sonic the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon adaptation platformer. He got those both personally canceled. He directly vetoed it because, admittingly, the people who are showing off the tape idiotically showed off, and I have to say this, they showed off the stealth portions of the game instead of the more fast-paced parts of the game. So Yuji Naka personally vetoed it because of that alone. When the game would have came out, it would have been a hit. The game would have sold well, without a doubt. And it probably, if that game had come out in North America, it would have reshaped the entire future of the Sonic franchise, I think, significantly for the better. Because I do feel that Sonic SatAM is the best story continuity, the best world-building continuity that Sonic the Hedgehog has ever had associated with it. And so he vetoed that just because he didn't like the way it looked. The fact that it was an American team might not have helped that much. And based on an American spin-off of his game. And then there was the whole drama with Sonic Extreme, where he got outraged that the American development team of Sonic Extreme was using the Nights into Dreams engine to help develop the game. And even though the Nights into Dream engine is not Yuji Naka's personal property, it is a resource. The Nights into Dreams engine was an asset of Sega Enterprises Limited. It is not his personal property, but he threatened apparently to resign from Sega, and unless Sega demanded that the Sonic X-treme team stop using the Nights in a Dream engine, which helped contribute to pushing the game back to the point where the game never came out, Sonic X-treme, which basically probably doomed any chance that Sega had of salvaging the Sega Saturn, which in turn probably helped steer Sega down a course in which they were unable to salvage their viability as a company in the home console market with the Dreamcast, which is the system that they arguably got almost everything right with, sadly, after many, many missteps with previous hardware systems, previous bad communication with the public and with retailers and with developers, miscommunications with, just doing their surprise release gimmick, trying to get a one-up on Sega with the release of the Saturn, shipping it to stores months prior to the previously announced launch date, without the games being ready, without retailers being ready to have shelf space out for it, and then having multiple short-lived Parasite platforms that did not last very long. And okay, so Sega CD comes out, and Genesis comes out, and Sega's whole gimmick is, console quality games in your home with this new super system. Then they come out with Sega CD, and they're saying, console arcade quality games in the home with our new super system. So people buy into Sega CD. Okay, it's a more advanced, it adds additional capabilities to the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. It can do things that standalone Genesis or Mega Drive can't do, so they invest several $100s in this ancillary Parasite system, and then a couple years later, they come out with the doggone 32X, saying that this is the it's not CDs, now it's this 32X is going to be the new future of arcade quality games on Genesis, and they come out with this Sega CD, the Sega 32X. Meanwhile, they're also hyping up, the Sega Saturn's still on the horizon. So it's like, okay, you're making us buy hundreds of dollars in these additional systems, and by the time 32X is coming out, it's like, okay, you want us to spend hundreds of dollars on this Parasite system for the Genesis, while we know the Sega Saturn is on the way. Meanwhile, when you have games on Super Nintendo like Donkey Kong Country, like Star Fox, which are doing things that rival or even surpass what we can see, what we are able to see in magazine screenshots of the 32X, and what the standalone Super Nintendo was able to do, 3D games, able to do CG graphics on standard cartridges without even needing an additional system, an additional power booster for it. It was really what started, I think, to turn. Because Genesis really was, to this day, people think of Genesis as having won the 16-bit wars just because of the huge lead. I mean, come on, Mega Drive Genesis gets to market years in advance of Nintendo with their 16-bit system, does things that Nintendo is not doing with NES or Famicom, and doing slightly edgier games as the people who maybe got the NES when they were, 7, 8, 9 years old. They're now, 11, 12, 13 years old. They're ready for something a little edgier. Nintendo was not tapping into that market. They're shying away from it, trying to keep their family-friendly image. And so Sega saw the perfect opportunity and broke into especially in North America. Nintendo had the North American game market on lockdown. I mean, in Europe and Japan, they had more of a foothold in the 8-bit era, and in Europe and Japan, and in South America and Central America, but in North America, Nintendo totally made a clown out of the Master System, and Sega was able to swoop in and have a major lead over Nintendo for a lot of that generation. And it was only, I think, in the later part of that generation when you start, Sega's, they're having mixed messaging with, is Sega CD going to be the future? Is 32X going to be the future? Now, is Saturn going to be the future? And then Super Nintendo's coming out with stuff that rivals some of these 32X games without didn't buy an additional power booster? This is not a 32X Sega stream. How did I get on this? Now let's play a different mode. Let's play a version that has, so trap, diagonals, obstacles, yes, diagonals, trap, snakes 4, snakes. Okay, we want to play mode 15. Okay. Yeah, there's that many. I have to like look at a chart and see what features I do and don't want. How about... No, we want to... Let's just go with... Now this version, I've never played this variation. This variation is going to... The snakes can also move on the diagonals. Yeah, let's go with just 10. Oh boy. Oh yeah, this is... It's a whole new duel, as they say in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now I wonder how this would play with the disc. On an original Intellivision pad, this would probably control better than with this right here. Because the disc doesn't really have any notches in it. It's really like 360-degree movement friendly. Oh yeah, this is a... I like this. This is a lot more dynamic, a lot more challenging. I like this. Oh yeah. The computer just having the sheer randomness of going off in any direction is making this a lot more... Oh, you can move through the diagonals, huh? I might be in danger. Oh, I'm in danger. Yeah, I got taken out. Okay. Actually, let me just double check. Let me make sure my let me make sure that my connection is stable. Am I dropping frames? Am I? Am I? I am not. Everything is good. So let's keep playing. And in about 10 minutes, how about... No. No, yeah, how about in 13 minutes, about roughly 15 minutes, how about we switch things up and we'll watch some videos about Intellivision for a while, then we'll do the break, we'll watch the rest of whatever the video selection. Now, I want to see, I want to experiment with moving. So can you move? How it is? I want to see how moving on the diagonals. What are the rules for moving on diagonal? Because I saw the other guy do it. Do I have to? I am using up a lot. Okay, so if you hit a line on the diagonal, you could pass through a diagonal line. You just it takes a lot of precision though. It's actually a pretty tricky move to pull off that the computer's actually pretty good at. Yo, this improves the game a lot just in terms of the variety. Because it was once you mastered. No. No, I have to hit it on this through the corner. It's kind of, you know what? I wonder if the logic for the fact that you could do that is sort of like the logic of how the bishop like moves on the diagonals in chess. Now I wish it would be cool. A cool variation of this would be if there was like a basically like this, but Splatoon, where it's based around claiming territory. Fastest. Okay, so let's... What mode was that? That was 15? I think that was mode 15 I was playing, wasn't it? Yeah, no, that was what I was playing for. We want mode... No, 50? Yes, okay. Yeah, we want mode 15. E. Let's go with 20 since we're actually ending these rounds a lot quicker as I experiment with more risky tactics. Okay. There we go. Yeah, take that. Take that. Oh, I was too busy looking at the other snake to... Yeah, I wrote a poem recently about snakes, or a snake. And maybe someday if I... Not this game. If I play a snake-related game someday, perhaps I'll debut that poem on stream. Because I've been writing a lot of poetry in my spare time lately. Which is, it's not something I've, I mean, I've been published many times before, my poetry stuff published, but it's not something I do a whole lot of. So, it's not something I've been doing a whole lot of, but very recently I've been getting back into it. My muse, my demon has been whispering into my ear all my inspiration. And demon, I do mean in the sense of like a Socratean demon, not like a bad spirit. I just mean demon in the sense of a muse or inspiration or a guardian spirit. You know, the famous quote, "My demon posy," meaning like my inspiration poetry or my creative spirit, which is poetry. It's kind of funny, like, demon in that sense is kind of more of almost means more like, it literally is basically the sense of like a guardian angel that inspires you or protects you or gives you advice. But, which is kind of like the word demon. You thought dorms were my muse? No, my muse inspired doorworms, but doorworms themselves are not my muse, I guess you could say. Yeah, demon kind of used to be like a sort of neutral term for just like a spirit or being, and then later on it got the sense of specifically meaning like a devil in common parlance. But when you get into stuff like I said, like you know, the Stoic philosophers of classical Greece, referring to you know, speaking with their demon, just meaning speaking with your inner self or a sort of guardian being, or just sort of your own internal dialogue characterized and made manifest, as some might frame it nowadays. But yeah, they play with that idea a lot to incredible effect in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, which actually His Dark Materials, they did an HBO actually has a adaptation they did in conjunction with the BBC. It was a co-production between BBC and HBO. And it's due for its third season sometime this year. And the first two seasons were absolutely excellent. And when that third season airs, there is a video game adaptation of His Dark Materials that was released for many systems, including Nintendo's Wii, which I will be playing the Nintendo video game adaptation of His Dark Materials around the time that Season 3 of His Dark Materials airs. I don't think an air date has been announced yet, but I do look forward to that stream. It's going to be quite the jank stream. I've deliberately remained spoiler-free for this game so I could experience the jank firsthand. I've watched very little of it, but I'm like, oh boy. Because the sad thing is, His Dark Materials, like, if you could get, like, Square Enix to put, like, to do a AAA effort on His Dark Materials video game adaptation, or a game set in that universe, it would be on tier with Final Fantasy. But in terms of making a cheap cash-in with a limited budget and development time, like Sega did when they published their video game adaptation of His Dark Materials, you get the Wii version and the Xbox version, which I will be playing and probably retching at every several minutes when I get to playing that on stream. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know if the actual novel trilogy for His Dark Materials, I don't know if that trilogy in and of itself would make for the best video game adaptation, but I know there are different characters, like the aeronaut cowboy, Lee Scoresby. It was played by Sam Elliott in the ill-fated 2007 Hollywood film adaptation. It actually was one of the highlights of that version of that adaptation, actually. But in that version, like the aeronaut cowboy with the his hair demon, Hester, in the His Dark Materials world, your demon is a physical manifestation of your soul, which takes the form of an animal. So it's like this grizzled cowboy and his familiar, who's this hare, Hester, and yeah, that would be. There's a spin-off novel called, or maybe a bit of a novella called Once Upon a Time in the North by Philip Pullman, which I think would make a fantastic potential basis for a video game. And that's one of those games I can see. I already think of like what the mechanics for that game could be like. Where if you play a certain way, maybe people in the game start hating you, or something like that. Like the enemies will be much more vicious towards you. And if you get a certain reputation of fighting dirty, because in the His Dark Materials universe, there are ways you can fight dirty and very easily and in a very cowardly manner murder people. Since I won't be celebrating Cinco de Mayo, I hope you celebrate Mother's Day this Sunday. Oh, yeah, I've got something planned, but it's not something that'll be on stream. It'll be something in person. I'll just leave it at that. But how about go to mode 15? Let's go with. I just want to set the timer for. Okay, we only have 2 more minutes to play before the point at which I want to we'll pause the gameplay section and get into watching some historical material about the Intellivision. Alright, so right now, my life depends on... No! I was 1 pixel off. I was 1 pixel off, doggone. I had to stick that turn. I love that there are elements that are genuinely actually dependent on skill now that there are these diagonals. No, okay. I messed up there. Alright. And you are closed off, mister. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we made it. Let's close him off right there. And he either has to... Yeah, this is much more interesting with the diagonals. Yeah, so making those solid lines walls them off. It's interesting. Oh, okay. Just wish we had some better... And the thing is, as much as I've talked about the mismanagement of the Amico project, there was a point where I was genuinely interested in what Tommy was trying to do with the system, Tommy Tallarico. I was genuinely interested in his vision and what he was explaining, what he wanted to do with this console. But there was more and more signs that this whole project was being severely mismanaged, that he was making promises he couldn't possibly keep up. The really bizarre, and I don't say this lightly, bizarre, like cult-like, sort of fan, not even fanboy, partisan following, rabid partisan following that the Amiga was attracting, where even reasonable, sane criticism was being met with, like, this really antisocial behavior, where people are, and the games, when they started showing off what little of the games they showed off, it wasn't very impressive. It got to a point where it was very clear that Tommy Tallarico was saying whatever he wanted to whoever he was talking to if he thought it would give them a positive impression in that moment of what he was doing. And I was like, there was a point where I was genuinely interested, and this is before I even started streaming. I was thinking, man, it would be fun to get this weird little system that's probably destined to be, at best, a niche system only for a handful of hardcore enthusiasts. At absolute best, a sort of overlap between the toy and video game markets aimed at, ultra-casual families and really little kids. Alright. How about... Okay, we're going to enter... No, okay, we get enter in... We're going to punch in 15. Let's be mad, lads. We're going to put in... No, go enter. And we're going to play for 30 rounds. But not now. Not now. We're going to do something else first. So we're going to... I'm just going to put the controller... By the way, this is what the controller for this thing looks like. I'm just going to put that down. And... we're going to switch over to... Oh gosh, I did not... I thought I had... spoilers for the videos we're watching next, but... Interact. And play all. Alright. So we're going to be watching... This is the initial concept video. I guess this is... I don't think this is something the general public would have seen. Only relatively recently... did this come to light as something that was this is just sitting on a vault on a reel-to-reel film or a VHS tape or something like that somewhere out there. So only recently did this come to light. This is probably the earliest promotional material made for the Intellivision. And Mattel Electronics, I did own a hand-me-down Football 2 unit. If you look up Mattel Electronics Football 2, it's a famous early electronic game, and I had no idea how to play it, but just the idea that I could move around a little red blip on a screen, and this is before I even got my Game Gear, was so cool. But
introducing Mattel.
Now, if I need to adjust the volume up or down on the video, let me know. As we go through the videos, they might be different volume levels, but at least for this first video, the volume should be pretty balanced between my voice and the game. I'll probably be pausing the video.
Electronics Intellivision, the computer-based system that transforms the home television set into an interactive center for games, entertainment, self-education, personal improvement, and individual and family information processing. Intellivision is a series of modularized hardware components and software that offer the consumer a choice of purchase options and benefits for now and in the years to come. The heart of Intellivision is the master component. Inside is a powerful 16-bit microprocessor, a full range of...
Look at the cartridge that comes out the side of that thing. I mean, what a design. I mean, there's nothing... they're trying to differentiate it from the top-loading Atari, I guess. But... this thing is so... It wasn't... And there's times they say something's before its time. No, this was precisely of its time. It didn't succeed. Maybe, I guess you could say the Atari VCS was more exactly of its time, in the right place, right time, right product to thrive in that atmosphere. But this was so of its time, and they were doing really advanced things, pushing what could be done with a video game
sound
system.
Effects, including 3-part harmony music, a broad color palette, and an extraordinarily high level of resolution. The master component can be utilized separately with ROM cartridges. These cartridges provide the opportunity to play a broad range of entertainment and game themes: sports, gambling, action, strategy, and children's learning fun.
Yeah, that phrase, learning fun, they're going to say that phrase a lot. Some copywriter, some person who writes the advertising copy at Mattel Electronics, not a person who files copyrights. Copywriting is writing, advertising and sales copy, sales letters. scripts for commercials and print ads, stuff like that, which is different from copywriting. As copy WRITE as opposed to copy RIGHT. So
Each cartridge provides for strategic and tactical intensity, physical skill challenge, as well as true-to-life sights, sounds...
The Electric Company spelling fun. Like, once again, so specifically of its era.
...and variability. The master component hand controllers are humanly engineered by Mattel Electronics to uniquely combine keypad, object, and action controls into one integrated device. The need for different controllers for different games is obsolete. Further, the keypad features an exclusive overlay system. Each game comes with customized printed overlays that simply slide in over the keys. All you need to know to play each game is printed right on the overlays.
Yeah, you can't see the overlays too well. I have a bunch of these. The replica Intellivision controllers that come with the come with the Intellivision flashback. That system, I'm just playing with a paperclip here. Let me play with something that's actually meant to be played with before I poke myself in the thumb with the doggone paperclip. Yeah, those controllers actually do have the inserts for all the games that are included with it. So you just slide it right in. I don't use it too much because I'm afraid to wear the things out, because once those are gone, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to get replacements for them. But it's actually a really good system for playing these more complex games, like, what button does what. It looks kind of intimidating without the overlays. Once you slide the overlay in, you see everything that the game actually involves. And a lot of these games really don't even use the numerical keypads much for anything anyway, but we'll keep on going.
Each controller also features 4 action buttons, 2 on each side, so that they can be used easily by both left and right-handed players. And forget old straight-line joystick-type controllers for all time. Objects can now be precisely maneuvered with a unique...
Yeah, forget them for all time. And yeah, that was a thing, if you're not aware. There was the iconic standard Atari 2600 controller, which, hold on, let me just slide this over here so I can see chat and my video at once. Yeah, the iconic Atari standard controller had the joystick and the single button. But for games like Breakout, there were also different controllers, like a paddle that was just a disc that you spun back and forth. So there were specialized controllers for specific games, and then other games like Howard Scott Warshaw's famous adaptation of Raiders of the Lost Ark was a more complex game where you're picking up and moving items and doing different actions. You actually had to use 2 controllers to perform different actions. 2 single stick, single button controllers. So the idea when they made the Atari 2600 was, okay, you're going to move your ship or character with one thing, and then just fire a shot or perform some action with the button. The idea of performing multiple actions dynamically was something that came along later, and this controller was made for that from the beginning. So having a controller and having games that were so complex that you actually could perform multiple actions in one game that required different buttons alone was a level of sophistication ahead of the competition at the time.
Movement. By adding the keyboard component to the master component, Intellivision enters a whole new dimension that allows the consumer to enjoy all the entertainment features of the master component, plus a wide variety of meaningful home computer applications.
Yeah, I just want to rewind a little bit.
Master component, plus a wide...
Yeah, so this keyboard here, this sort of became they're pitching this keyboard component that transforms the Intellivision into a proper home computer. At the time when that was still a very new idea, they basically built into the Intellivision around the idea of expanding it with this computer. They're advertising it to marketers and, I guess, store owners here. And then the public commercials and advertising material, they also push this keyboard unit. This never came out in this form. Mattel Electronics would never cease to regret announcing this thing, because a number of people bought the Intellivision core system, like, I could buy a video game system now, and later I could expand it into a home computer that has all these different functions. And because they kept delaying and never properly released this computer system, accessory. The the Securities and Exchange Commission, I believe. No, the Federal Trade Commission actually fined them thousands of dollars per day each day they did not come out with this keyboard, because so many people are filing complaints that, hey, I paid hundreds of dollars for this Intellivision based on being able to expand it into a computer, and then they never come out with it. I've been falsely advertised to. And later on in Mattel's support of Intellivision, they rushed out a stripped down version of this keyboard component that had very few of the advertised features here. It did not look as cool as this thing, that's for sure. And I don't think it had the tape deck built into it. But they just basically released it to fulfill the Federal Trade Commission's ultimatum that they actually fulfill their promise to their customers to release this keyboard. They only released it on, through mail order to people who had filed the complaints against Mattel. So there are very few of these computer keyboard components out there. They're very rare now. There are only a couple of prototype units of this actual version of it you see here. Eventually, I think they started coloring in a few of the keys, but it's very typewriter-like. So that's a little background as this computer component, and why you're basically never going to see it outside of these promotional materials from very early on in the Intellivision's lifespan.
Variety of meaningful home computer applications. The keyboard component consists of a full 64-key typewriter-like keyboard, an advanced magnetic tape cassette drive completely under the control of the microprocessor, and a microphone that is used for certain programs requiring user voice input. With the keyboard and master components combined, the consumer can now purchase special magnetic tapes featuring 2 digital and 2 full audio tracks.
And yes, those are just the same audio tapes you pop into your tape deck to listen to music, if you're of a certain age. I mean, I say that, and people only maybe 5 or 6 years younger than me never had experience with this.
The tapes provide programs for family financial management, physical health, and well-being, and self-education.
Now, a little context into the whole idea of docking your game console into a computer unit keyboard add-on and using cassette tapes or discs or diskettes to run programs in addition to your standard video games. This was not an uncommon idea. There's the APF, there was I think it was called the Fun Machine or something to that effect, where there was also a video game console standalone unit that also docked into a larger computer system. Then there was the Coleco Atom, which was something similar for the ColecoVision. It was either a computer variant of the ColecoVision or some kind of keyboard contraption that the ColecoVision docked into. So the idea of buying a video game system, then having a separate computer that docked into it, was not that crazy of an idea. In Japan, the Family Computer, the original, the Famicom, the first proper Nintendo home system, it being called Family Computer and having a keyboard accessory and a cassette drive that you could load programs and store recordable data onto from certain games, like the Japanese versions of Excitebike or Wrecking Crew, kind of played into this concept as well. In Japan, in America, the initial concept for what became the Nintendo Entertainment System, to make a North American friendly version of the Famicom, was to have something that was even more computer-like than the Famicom with its computer keyboard and taped cassette add-on, that was actually quite a bit more like this contraption here. And then they decided to scrap all of that and just make something closer to a straight-up video game system. But with so
each of these offerings
this isn't
is pre-programmed,
too alien of an idea to the point where even Nintendo was considering some format similar to this for releasing the NES later on into the 80s.
Consultant who actually talks you through the material. You respond in plain English, using the familiar typewriter-like keyboard or microphone. There's absolutely no need for knowledge of a computer language. Let's take a look now at the range and depth of software benefits provided by Intellivision. There will be 5 exciting sports cartridges in 1979. Football, baseball, basketball, auto racing, and ice hockey. Let's look at several of them now. First, there's football, America's most incredible video game. 60 fast-thinking, hard-driving minutes of real football action. There are kickoffs, punts, and runbacks, passing plays,
so this console came out 43 years ago in 2022.
You and your opponent call the offense.
And I know this isn't much to look at. I mean, I mean, if anyone's on Twitch just randomly looking for stuff, sees Intellivision actually clicks on it, you're aware of this. But for context's sake, this, comparing what you're seeing here
Plays and set the defense.
to Atari 2600's version of football, especially their first version of football, is like comparing
all
like
the action of a real pro game.
like Xbox 360. It's like comparing like
master component purchase.
like PlayStation 4 to like
baseball. Where you
it's like
control
comparing
all the
PS5
action.
to
Two nine-man
PS3
teams play a
almost.
full 9
It is a
innings.
full
In the field, you
generational
control the
difference.
pitch, fastballs, curveballs,
You can very
change of
clearly
pace.
recognize
You
this is
control
the
the field.
baseball diamond. Those are
Run
the
up to the
bases.
ball,
Those are
throw
the
the ball to
fielders.
the
That's the
appropriate
pitcher.
base.
Whereas the
Try
Atari
picking off a
version
runner who may
of
be taking too
their
large
first
a
version of
lead.
pinball
At bat, you can try to pull the ball,
barely
hit to the
resembled
opposite field, bunt,
a recognizable
control the runners
version
around the
of
bases,
baseball, unless
take a
you were
lead off
explicitly
base,
explained
go for a
that's what
steal,
you were looking at.
Try a hit and run. It's all there.
This copy is
Basketball.
skipping a lot,
Teams compete in
unfortunately.
48 action-packed minutes.
But that's
of
just
hard-driving
this is
basketball
a
action.
a
You control the ball.
43-year-old
You
video
dribble down
that
the
was
court.
found preserved,
Pass off.
fortunately.
Try
So
a jump or set shot, but be careful. The 24-second clock is running down. Go in for the rebound. Try a fast break. On defense, you set your team. Press. Try to steal the ball. Try to block the shot. Go after the rebound. It's the closest thing to pro basketball yet. Intellivision strategy games in 1979 include backgammon and checkers. Let's look at backgammon. It's you against the computer. In
backgammon, by the way, for those not aware,
You
backgammon
move
is
the
one of the
medals
most
in forward
ancient games in
Set at
human
its lower
history
level.
that we still have the
computer
rules for.
becomes a tremendous teaching aid for
It's
the
a
beginner
very
and
ancient game,
intermediate.
actually.
Set it at the advanced level, it is truly capable of playing at a world-class level. Action cartridges in 1979 include Space Battle and Armor Battle. Let's look at Armor Battle. You and your opponent each have...
No, there is a attempt. They're trying to make a new version of Armor Battle for the ongoing catastrophe that is the Amico. I hope it does come out just for the laughs of it, and so people who paid for it get what they want. And plus, I want to see Pete Dorr stream it. He has his pre-order locked in. I want to see Pete Dorr play these games. I hope the Amico comes out. I hope it does, and I hope afterwards they get some sense and just release these games on Nintendo Switch, or just release an HDMI Intellivision flashback system. But they made a new...
different terrain maps. There will also be 3 gambling offerings in 1979.
I love it. They couldn't even...
Blackjack and poker combined.
Like, this would get this game
Roulette,
potentially an
craps, and
M
slots
rating
combined.
nowadays. This
And
alone.
horse racing. Let's look at blackjack and poker. High-stakes action right out of Las Vegas. Blackjack, 5-card stud poker,
The way the little
5-card
guy's
draw
eyes go
poker,
back and forth.
7-card stud poker. Play against a fast-shuffling, shifty-eyed, computer-smart dealer that will call, raise, drop, and even bluff. Watch your fortune grow, or watch out as your bank account disappears. 2 children's learning fun cartridges.
They just
Math
love
and
that phrase,
spelling,
children's
will also
learning
be
fun.
offered in 1979. Let's take a look at the math program. Children race their gorillas through the jungle, encountering animal obstacles, and an endless variety of addition, subtraction,
Yeah,
multiplication,
we've got
and
one of
division
these
problems.
edutainment games
Both
on here.
speed and
This is
accuracy
inverted,
count.
but Word
If
Rocket. So
successful,
we'll be...
their
I
gorilla
don't know if we'll
moves
play
along
that
the
tonight,
jungle
but we'll
path to the next
definitely
obstacle.
mess around with it
Answer
sooner or
incorrect,
later.
and the computer shows the correct answer and forces the gorilla to suffer the hazards of the river. The computer also automatically recognizes the children's abilities and adjusts the level of problem complexity so that they will not become frustrated with problems that are too complex or get by easily with problems that are too simple. Valid learning made lots of fun. In addition to the 14 Intellivision game cartridges available in 1979, there will be 6 personal computer-type programs that operate off the master and keyboard components combined. These include 2
These basically, none of these
offerings,
came out in this form.
conversational French and speed reading. Let's look at a segment of each.
Now,
You're going-
what you're about to see is, if I remember, if this is the video I'm thinking of, because I have not pre-screened, this is probably going to be nonsense, or BS, perhaps, as some might put it. I think there are a lot of simulated looks at what the programs might be like, but it's very obviously not an actual program in a resolution that the Intellivision would ever be capable of. So let's go ahead.
Going on a trip to a French-speaking country. You'll want to know enough helpful phrases to greet people, go shopping, ask directions, manage in a restaurant, etc. With Intellivision's
Look at this.
conversational...
There's no way. I think this is just, they just typed this up. I don't think this is actually running off an Intellivision. I think this is a simulation of what the program might be like. Unless the computer made it able to output like this, I really don't think so.
French program, you can be ready in no time.
I can't think of any home computer that had visuals like this at the time.
Phrase correctly for you.
Comment allez-vous?
You pronounce the same phrase into the microphone.
Comment allez-vous?
When you've finished all the phrases in a lesson, the computer will automatically play back your recorded pronunciation bracketed by the correct pronunciation.
Comment allez-vous? Comment allez-vous?
As none of us sounds like we think, in English, no less in a foreign language, you can now hear deficiencies and make conscious corrections. Is there a better way? Learn to speed read with hundreds of pages of practice text. The computer shows you how. Test your recall and comprehension.
This is clearly nonsense.
And recommends when you're ready to tackle the next speed
There's no
increment.
way this is real.
What finer way to improve your
I just thought of
skills,
something.
Understanding and enjoyment. In the area of personal improvement,
I think in 1979, we just may have seen the first ever bullshot trailer for a video game, potentially. Okay.
2 cassettes will be offered in 1979.
Cassettes.
Physical exercise and food management. Tell the computer your age, physical dimensions, weight trends, and whether you would like to lose weight, and if so, how much, and from what part of the body, and over what period of time. The computer will develop a personalized physical exercise program for you.
Now, if I remember correctly, they got far enough along that they got, I guess, a licensing deal with Jack LaLanne, who I guess was some sort of fitness guru that was around in the early 80s. I don't know anything. My only exposure to Jack LaLanne was, you're 4 years old at the time. I guess you dodged. I'm glad you weren't maybe slightly older and got excited for this if you somehow managed to see this. Because it would have been disappointing because none of this ever came out in this form whatsoever.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
And I guess that level of audio would have been theoretically possible with the tape cassette thing because the tape drive, as I understand, is kind of controlled by the microprocessor of the computer. So they could have data parts of the tape as well as audio parts of the tape. So they could, have data streaming off the tape, and then the tape could cue itself up to that audio section of that voiceover 1, 2, 3, 4, in combination with those graphics. I mean, those aren't the actual graphics. This is just a simulation of, I guess, what they expected the program to look like. But they're doing kind of stuff that really, honestly, was not fully realized in a home video game system until the Wii in 2008 with Wii Fit. Or 2007, I think Wii Fit was. So, it's interesting.
Answer the computer's questions regarding your family's diet considerations, favorite and not-so-favorite foods, prices of various foods in your local supermarket, and weekly food budget. Each week, the computer will recommend a customized menu plan
this
for
on
the family,
our smartphones
and even
nowadays.
compile a shopping list within your budget. In the area of financial services, there will be programs for family budget management and estate planning, as well as tax computation. Input information relative to your family's current and projected income, assets, company-paid benefits, outgo, investments, and financial goals for the future. The computer will recommend alterations to your current spending and investment patterns to better help you cope with making ends meet today, while preparing for your financial needs and security in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre thinking of making this kind of decisions on a computer that's not even connected to the internet.
Information needed
not that the internet existed in a consumer form at the time. Needed some kind of mainframe at a university to even access anything, even the forerunners of the internet.
It will show you your taxes due computed on a separate joint and income averaged basis. Select the best way, and the computer will display all the necessary schedules with all of the appropriate numbers filled in. Simply
we're spoiled by stuff like TurboTax now.
The computer can even analyze your itemized deductions versus the averages.
And honestly, we shouldn't even need to use TurboTax. That should just be provided by the government. But that's another story.
Year better. Save money, save time, and in the privacy of your own home. You have just seen a demonstration of Mattel Electronics Intellivision.
Yeah, and like 70% of it was stuff that never came out, fake versions of computer programs that never even came out.
Dimension to provide even higher levels of service to the consumer.
Whew.
If you're thinking about buying solar
Alright, we're gonna
panels,
skip this.
don't. The U.S. government will literally buy them for you.
Soon, the John Geyer family will be
Now
using
this-
their
okay.
TV to help compute their...
This, well, first off,
Soon,
that last voice actor, but this one in particular, this guy got a ton of voiceover work in the 80s that I remember from a lot of commercials, and even in the early 90s, he was still around doing stuff. He did a few video game commercials too, aside from this. But this was actually what the public was advertised to the public, and what got a lot of families like, hey, our kid wants a video game system, and we can get a computer. We could upgrade it into a computer for household stuff later on, so... This is what got them in a bunch of trouble.
The John Geyer family will be using their TV to help compute their federal income tax, learn French, improve math skills, and quarterback an NFL team. Here they come, the line of scrimmage. Introducing Intellivision.
No, I love the colored keys on this prototype here. Something I like old, like 80s, early 90s keyboards when a couple, like the shift key would be blue. I mean, I don't want to show off the keyboard I have on my desk, but I customized it so like the tab and caps lock are blue and the shift is green. But let's keep going.
The new home video system from Mattel Electronics. 2 components, each sold separately. Start with the master
One not
component,
sold at all.
Available now for super games like NFL football. To pass.
Go for it, Dad.
Caught it. And for learning fun from the
That
electric company.
snap of that controller, of the
I
cartridge
got it.
going in. I don't think it ever
And
went
when
in
you
that
add the
smoothly or
keyboard
sounded that
component
good.
Available this summer. Intellivision can change your family's
Summer
life.
1979. Yeah, right.
Financial planning.
Okay,
Even
now this actually resembles okay, this proves that the last video was bullshit. I mean, I guess it wasn't aimed at the consuming public. It was really for trade purposes. But this actually kind of resembles what a reasonable appearance this computer program would
Custom
have.
designs a Jack LaLanne exercise program for you.
Slave dryer.
There is an entire library of Intellivision programs designed to grow.
Each
right
program
along
sold
with your
separately
family's
or not at all.
interests. Discover Intellivision. It can change your
Available
family's
at
life.
Macy's. What an age. Yeah, so this is an actual, like, I guess something that a cartridge that would be running in a demo unit at a store that would just be running this on a loop on a TV. And yes, this is 2001: A Space Odyssey. In the days before the internet, it was much more likely that you could probably get away with something like this without having copyright problems, because I doubt they licensed this music from Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, that never happened. Man, this looks really good with this television frame, I'm telling you. Yeah, so here's some football footage. Well, no, I mean, it's funny because it's not just the game. It actually has on-screen commentary explaining the game. It's funny that, yeah, I was going to say, it's like, I was going to say, why isn't there a voiceover for this? But no, this wasn't a videotape. This was something that would actually be running on an Intellivision in the store. So it's limited to just sort of the computerized text that they... So they kind of had to program little mini versions of these games to run in an automated manner with the... Now, this is an interesting... Yeah, this is kind of fascinating from a conceptual like standpoint, how they programmed all this stuff. Because they must have programmed sort of mini, partially functional games that run in an automated manner. I wonder how many of the assets... Oh, that was public domain. The theme from 2001, that was public... That infamous theme, that was public... That was... I want to look this up now, Clackboy. It got me interested. Okay. Sorry, as this is running, I'm on a...
Remember when you were a kid and life was just a little simpler?
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. This is hilarious. This is hilarious. I gotta
Back
tell
when
you.
the whole
I almost, when this started playing, I ran like, oh, I gotta skip this ad. And I realized, oh yeah, this ad is what we're supposed to be watching. This is the long-form ad for the 2014 release of the Intellivision flashback system, which I just wish they'd just come out with an HDMI version of, and I'd be happy. Yeah, I was looking it up in the background. Yeah, so apparently, I did not realize, you know, the times when they use classical music that's in the public domain in famous films, I'm aware that that's classic. I've never heard that song, that track, outside of the context of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Therefore, I always assumed that it was composed specifically for the movie.
Remember when you were a kid and life was just a little simpler?
No, it's funny. Now, this pitch here, this is what the current holders of Intellivision were kind of using as the basis for trying to push the Amico, but they're pushing this concept with these new games, but here they're actually using the original Intellivision games with this idea, so it makes a lot more sense. And this is kind of the call to action, the kind of pitch that the disastrous Retro VGS, later known as Coleco Chameleon, before Coleco Holdings themselves revoked their use of the trademark, their right to use the Coleco name, and the project fell apart after multiple fraudulent prototypes, one of which was literally a Super Nintendo duct taped into the shell of an Atari Jaguar outer case. So this is like a retro call to emotion that actually makes sense because they're actually using original retro games.
Remember when you were a kid and life was just a little simpler? Yeah, we were there. Back when the whole world was the size of your block, but limited only to the size of your imagination. When the hair was bigger and the clothing brighter, we were there. When Friday nights were late and Saturday mornings were early. When school picture days were cosmic and mixtapes were actually
school pictures still look like that even like
too.
a decade and a half
Back
later.
when sitcoms and game shows were on your television, we were making Intellivision. And now a little time has passed. We may have parted ways for a little while, but like an old friend, we're still here for you, just the same.
Was the name that marketing picked for it. I had no idea what Snafu had to do with it.
Neither do I.
I originally called it Snakes with a bunch of S's on the end. And all I could see that was similar was it started with SNA and Snafu. But it was a fun game.
That was nice and quick.
Pitfall on the Atari 2600.
Oh boy.
Major League Baseball on Intellivision.
Oh boy, it's him. It's
You're
him.
out. If these games strike a chord deep within you, as they do with me, then you're going to love this next piece, where we talk to the pioneers of classic gaming.
I mean, Tom, he knows how to put on a show. I liked his
I am here
television
with
stuff.
one of the original programmers from Intellivision. Was it a good
Rest in
experience?
peace.
It was fantastic. It was like working in a college dorm. Mattel wasn't sure that this video game thing was really going to last, so they just kind of hired people right out of college. They got them cheap, no experience, threw them into whatever spare rooms they had around Mattel, and said, well, do something. And within a year, people were investing around the world based on what a bunch of crazy 20-year-olds were doing at Mattel.
For years, I've been on your television screen comparing Atari and Intellivision.
Let's look at this thing here.
Isn't this a wonderful machine? There's a plastic membrane inside. There's actually no moving parts inside of this, a nice plastic membrane that has that nice squishy feel. The computer on this inside of this was a 16-bit
So that's
processor.
probably around 2003.
Wow, that was high tech.
Right, with the games in the late 80s, the Nintendo, when it first came out, was 8-bit. So we were about 10 years ahead of our time.
And now you've come out with.
I mean, he says that, but it's like the NES was clearly more capable than the Famicom.
All of this with you at all times.
Kind of fun.
With another 50 games stacked in front of you. All of this material on one CD, so you can play it on a PC or Mac.
What was it like to be a part of the market when it actually
there was a free version you could download on Mac.
The ET game
and by
that Atari came out with. Some people attribute that game alone for destroying the video
Yeah,
game
not
industry
quite,
because
but
it was so bad.
E.T.'s an interesting story in that
hey,
it may not have been the
Workshop.
greatest game, but it was a game, but it was the fastest game done ever. I left the challenge open to anyone else in Atari, anyone else who was willing to pick up this challenge at the time. No one else wanted to. I was the only person who would stand there and guarantee that I would deliver them a game in 6 weeks. That's what I did.
The competition at the beginning was kind of a friendly, we want to beat the other guys, so you'd work 24 hours a day. As it went on,
that game there
was there
actually came out, I think, in like
1988
or something crazy like that. That Choplifter game, I think that was. Yeah, that came out in the late 80s.
Recognition for the work that you were doing?
Oh, sure. With Pitfall and its success, 3.5 million units, when the company decided to tag my name in the commercial credit, I knew that it had gone to another level.
MTV came out, which initially just showed videos 24 hours a day with very few commercials, and kids stopped using their TVs to play video games and started watching videos all day long. Atari got out of the business, Coleco got out of the business, Mattel got out of the business, and the only person who stayed in was the former marketing director at Mattel. He's the one who kept Intellivision going through the 80s. In 1985, Intellivision was the only game system still being sold in the United States.
I mean, by an American manufacturer specifically. So this is another.
Imagine a revolutionary home video system that can teach.
Okay, so this is an actual, because what we saw earlier, that was like a cartridge that was running on an Intellivision. This is an actual video about Intellivision.
Develop your children's math skills, play NFL football, and design a personalized fitness program.
Welcome back.
For you.
Did I go away for a while? What happened?
As Mattel Electronics
transforms
your TV set into,
or did you type that up a while ago and weren't able to press it? Or something? Did I go offline? Am I the only viewer?
The Intellivision system is the master component. Your ticket to action.
I don't usually look at my
challenging strategy games,
users in chat,
and imaginative learning programs for children.
Yeah, if there's anyone else who's watching, they're choosing to keep quiet, which is their business, and I thank them for their participation. But no, frankly, Clackaboy, oftentimes you are the. I went off.
That's right, all 9 players. Throw the ball around the diamond to warm up your infielders. Here's the pitch. Your opponent swings.
On everything on the web and in my broadcast software is indicating that I've been online this entire time.
Keep the runner close at first base, or have your catcher throw to second to prevent a steal. A little practice, and you'll hit the cutoff man.
Alright, well, I'm glad you were able to find me again.
Like a pro.
Alright, well, and thanks everybody for watching. I'm not asking any. Yeah, I'm kind of scared to look at my users in chat, because once, like, about a year ago and change, I looked at users in chat just out of curiosity while streaming, and a significantly well-known person was watching my stream, and it turned out to really be them. Someone, like, I'm not even going to say who it was. I was just kind of astounded, and I was kind of like freaked out, like, oh my gosh, how is X person watching me? Like, and it wasn't like they just popped in. They were watching me for a while, and I was like, hi, like, I'm like, I think I held it together, but like, I don't want to freeze up on stream or lose it. And it was an honor and a shock that this person somehow found my stream and was watching. It's not someone like. It was someone, a significant celebrity, I'd go as far as to say. Just happened to be watching, and it turned out to be their real legit Twitch account.
Let's journey to the distant ends of the galaxy.
Someone I wouldn't think would watch someone like me anyway, so.
Can you save the mother?
Yeah, I've only played a handful of.
The enemy by maneuvering the green gun sight.
Press spacebar to fire. That's interesting.
Fire your lasers.
Press spacebar to fire. So is this something they programmed intended for computer release, like for releasing the computer accessory? Yeah, I've only played a handful of Intellivision games, actually. I just really love the ones that I have played and have memories of. I'm not saying who it was. So you could use your imagination. It could be you could use your own imagination as to who it was, but it was yeah, it was interesting. So that's why I don't look at my users in chat anymore. Because that's a way you could potentially peek in on who's lurking. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. Yeah, conversational French. This never. I don't know if this ever. Let me look up and see if this ever came out.
Then you record your own voice. Say la chemise. By comparing your pronunciation with Mimi's, you'll develop both your accent and your vocabulary.
C'est la robe.
C'est
Intellivision conversational French.
C'est la robe.
Okay, I guess this apparently actually did come out.
Help shape up your body. Jack's program will be customized especially for you. Whether you get very little
yeah, I'm
or
seeing,
a great deal of
I think this actually might have
your
came out.
Physical condition and doctor's advice will determine the program for your needs.
Yeah, conversational
With
French
Jack
full
in your
playthrough,
home,
which is
you'll
20
soon be
minutes
on your
long.
way to better health, firmer muscle tone, and a
That's
trimmer
interesting.
figure.
For the first fitness test exercise, get down on the floor and get ready to do some sit-ups. Remember, keep your knees up and touch both elbows to your knees.
Yeah, that shirt. Yeah, I was gonna say it's Steve from Blue's Clues shirt. I think it's also Azrael Dreamer's shirt from Undertale.
Figure method of stock charting to help you monitor the performance of your investment portfolio.
Like stock charting, you have to manually enter in all this data yourself. Because there's no internet to connect to. I mean, geez, what a world.
Mattel Electronics Intellivision is truly intelligent television, opening up a whole new world.
I've never seen this before myself. The other two videos I saw, all the other little mini segments I've never seen before.
Mattel's
This is actually new to me.
new programs on cartridges and cassettes makes it
On cartridges and
an
cassettes.
exciting and lasting value
Okay.
for years to come. Intellivision, the future is today.
Man, what an animation.
Master component, keyboard component, cartridges and cassettes, each sold separately.
Or not at all. And then the tape would loop, I guess.
Welcome back, everybody. Do you remember the very first video games from...
Yeah, you can barely hear that one. We're just going to skip this. Okay, now Play Cable. Okay, this is basically Play Cable. Incredible what they managed to do. They basically made, like the Sega Channel. Oh, when you were a kid, your neighbor had Intellivision, so he let you borrow it. You got to experience some of the games. That's really awesome. Because you would have been playing it, I guess, not, within, like, you playing Intellivision probably around then would probably be the equivalent of, like, playing PlayStation 4 now. It's, like, not that old at the time, But Play Cable? If you remember know of the Sega Channel that Sega had in the 90s for Sega Genesis, this is basically Sega Channel, but for Intellivision. They were doing insane things with this system. And
Dad, it's here!
When Play Cable comes to your house, cable comes alive. It's the world's
Yeah, it was
most
in the
sophisticated
80s.
computer game library at your fingertips 24 hours a day on cable TV. It's Play Cable, the all-game channel. Now you won't just watch TV, you'll sack the quarterback, slide into home plate, even blast your way through hyperspace. Every month on Play Cable, you'll play an action-packed selection of 15 Intellivision games. The games that play more like the real thing. New games, returning games, and continuing favorites. All for less each month than you'd pay for a single game cartridge. Don't wait to play the world's most sophisticated computer game library.
What an
Order Play
insanely ambitious service. And it worked, too, from what I heard.
Take it from Mickey. Play Cable's a hit.
Play Cable, the all-game channel.
Whew.
There's lots of video games out today. Some are better than others. But with most games costing $25 or more, the best way to play is without cartridges on Play Cable. For less than half the price of one game, you get 20 great games a month, over $500 worth. And you can play any game, anytime, 24 hours a day. Play Cable. Only a millionaire'd want to play any other way.
The sooner you order, the sooner you'll save. So call
Do
your
I
cable
dare?
company
Do we
now.
dare? Do we dare call the number now? No. We tried. We were doing that for a while. It was fun. You just get obsolete numbers. But then once we called the Sega 32X number. Yeah, like by today's currency rates, that would be cheap for a game. But
And the video game programmers
this
who
is
make
like
them.
35 years ago.
And now
So
we enter that world. This is the application software department. This is where
this is
video
a
games
tour
are
of the
created.
Intellivision, I guess, offices
These are the
within
programmers'
Mattel
offices.
Electronics.
We thought that we'd talk to some of the programmers and find out.
I haven't
what they
seen
had
this
to
before.
say.
I just found it. I'm like, oh, this looks
much
cool.
more than a video game programmer. Actually, I'm a group leader with no group, but I...
Stephen Ettinger. We hear that you're working on a secret project.
That's right, Mark. Working on a new project called Hoverforce 3D, using a chopper motif. We've got
Hoverforce
helicopters
3D,
in the
what
game
the
that look as realistic and lifelike
I
as
played
this.
that.
But what's more, this game is called Hoverforce 3D, which means we get to use these special new 3D glasses. Attractive, aren't they? I certainly think so. But let's let the audience try them on, just to get a sneak preview of the game.
I don't remember. I don't think there was an actual stereoscopic 3D on. I think it was just that there was a top-down
The game
view.
looks like this.
Oh, okay. So they're just messing around.
No, I do other stuff too.
Like, what other things?
Yeah, this is.
Sound
Yeah, their videography is kind of
When you create sound effects,
guerrilla style. We'll say it.
do they just come out of your head?
No, they come out of my mouth.
They come out of your mouth. Could you just give us a quick demonstration? That's very, very good. Could you just demonstrate one more?
No, you only get one.
We thought we'd go and ask some of the programmers themselves to get an opinion of what they felt their environment was like. Dave Steichen.
Wow, he's got a cigarette.
Super environment.
He's just got a. This is so long ago. He's just casually smoking in the
Come
office.
and go as you please. You don't have people on you all the time looking over your shoulder. Yeah, there's only one small problem, and that's some of the people out there who don't like smoking.
Oh, okay. They're actually addressing that.
Well, since I came here, I've cut my habit down in half, I used to smoke 2 packs a day, but, I really get paranoid about smoking around this place, people peeping over your cubicle, sniffing at you. It's gotten so bad that I have to go outside before I'll ever smoke, I have to go downstairs and stand in the rain and freeze my rear end off, and late at night sometimes if I'm really feeling good, I'll be.
The environment is very positive.
They're
It's
just
very
having
free,
fun.
Very conducive to creativity.
I mean, who did they think was going to watch this back then? It's incredible that they even have this
The dress
footage.
code. I used to work at a place where I had to wear a suit and tie every day, but that's just not my style. The dress code, that's what I like best.
Okay,
What do the
I'm glad they
programmers
cut off
think
that
of each
quickly.
other? The people
Wasn't
they
expecting
work
that.
with every day.
The people
Oh,
at Mattel.
okay.
I guess on the whole, I'd have to say they're really great. Nobody holds a grudge.
Okay, we're just going to skip that section. I did not think a Mattel Electronics video would I'd need to skip through
the
that.
pressure is too great, that some programmers are ready to crack. We asked programmer Tom Priestley what he thought.
Well, really, Mark, I haven't noticed any undue pressure at all since I've been here. Now,
okay.
Some people do have some rather unrealistic expectations.
All right.
We go to business meetings. They expect me to get the coffee, me to take the
They're
minutes,
fully
me
clothed.
to
That's all
type them up
I
and
care about for the
distribute them
purpose
afterwards.
of complying with
But
terms of service.
that's just a few pigs.
I've got to be going now. I hear a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I
coming out
guess
of
when the
Atari.
guy was talking about how they basically, Mattel Electronics just basically put him in a spare office and let him do whatever they want, he was legit serious about that. Yeah.
Gabriel, you got some pool
The marketing research. The marketing research. The marketing research. Oh God, I forgot what I was going to say!
Is that all you use, program video games?
Get that thing off my face.
Do you know anyone who plays video games? Well, I do, and I've been wondering what all the fuss is about. So I went out and bought a couple, and I find that there are lots of different things that these games can have in common. A lot of them are based on popular characters like G.I. Joe and Kool-Aid Man, who of course is a very popular character. Other games are based on movies, especially after the great success of the games E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that big hit, Tron. But one of the biggest things that they had in the beginning was sports games. They have games for every sport you could think of. They have games for boxing.
Incredible to
and
watch.
bowling, and decathlon. They have golf and horse racing, and ice hockey and motocross. Could you play these games? Now you can play these games in your own home. Pool, which you could always play in your own home. Now you can play it on TV. They also like fish games. You can go fishing. That's another sport you can have. Or you can get chased by sharks. Or you can chase sharks. There are more sharks.
It's so incredible this is not a modern... Oh yes, there was a Kool-Aid Man video
You can
game.
think of. It's no wonder they're
It's
having
a-
trouble coming up with
okay.
new games. There's nothing left to do.
Years ago on an emulator, I did play the... I played... Clackerboy's asking if there's a Kool-Aid Man video game. Yes, I don't have chat. I forgot to put chat up here. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah, I have... There we go. That should be... Yeah, it's about monsters trying to drink all the water in Kool-Aid Man's swimming pool. I guess they had to make the game about something.
Well, guess that's about everything. You know, it's kind of sad here, last day of Mattel, but, you know, it really shouldn't be. Mattel isn't dead, as long as it lives on in our hearts. You know, we really built up a family here, some close ties.
Oh, so this
And
they
that's
made this
something
when
that
they
can
were
last
leaving
forever.
Mattel, I guess.
I mean, something like that spirit, you just can't throw that out.
We are closed now.
All right.
So that's $25. You can give your family one
More
video
play
game
cable stuff.
cartridge. Fun, huh, guys? Or for less than half that, you can give them play cable. $500 worth of Intellivision games a month on cable.
Oh yeah,
20
no, I
games to
mean,
pick
it
from,
got to the point
24
where some
hours
of
a
them
day.
that
No
we
schedules
saw,
to follow,
like, we
no
know at least that
cartridges to
one
buy.
person has
Play
already
cable.
passed away.
It's the only
So
way to play
I'm
without
glad we're
paying
able to
too
get all
much.
this material from them when they were still around to tell their
The
stories.
fun can't start for your family till you call your cable company. So do it now.
Okay, kid, you want to play the real thing? Pick a game, any game.
Okay.
Every month on Play Cable, you get 20 great Intellivision games without cartridges.
Play-
Over
play cable
$500
stuff.
worth. all on cable. And you can play any game you want, anytime you want, 24 hours a day. You just push a button and batter up. Space Battle? I wanted to play
I mean,
baseball.
I actually got to, and one of my neighbors actually had the Sega Channel in the 90s. I got to experience that secondhand through watching them, and it was incredible. How long is this? This is 3 minutes. Yeah, this is just more. Is there not even any? There's not even any sound for this, so it's not so exciting. But I mean, look at the speed. This is pretty cool. No, when they show these cars racing, I never saw this. Yeah, look how fast that's. They're managed to pull off those cars moving. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, this is, I guess, just sort of tech demos. All right, let's see what's next.
Okay, this is Rick Reynolds, and with me is...
This is ColecoVision chess.
Something about the amount of distance travel maybe necessary.
Okay, let's... Round 2, okay. Wait a second, are we just watching... These aren't things that I ever had on my playlist. We're done with the playlist at this point. Okay. The playlist is... Oh, it just kept showing other random videos that weren't on the playlist. Alright. So, what kind of... How much time do we have? We've got... Wait a second. We've got about an hour and change. Hey, I will be right back. And we'll get back to the Intellivision gameplay. I'll be right back. Just for a couple of minutes at tops. Okay, I am back, and I just want to make sure I have to move my broadcast software back over so I could have my stream manager over back on the right. Get out of video watching mode. Okay. And you're not dropping any frames, so we're going to be good for the rest of the stream. And where's my controller? There we go. And we're just going to jump over to... There we go. We just got to wake the system up. So let's jump right into some more. This is... Okay, we're going to play these... We're going to play a little... There we go. Okay, I just gotta turn my personal volume up a bit. But it should be balanced for the viewers. Alright. Oh, you're gonna try to sneak up there, huh? Okay. And, blocked you off. Oh, that gotcha. Okay. And my favorite piece of music. This is my favorite music on Intellivision whatsoever. Now, this was an era when having any kind of music on a video game was kind of a big deal. I mean, the music, I never actually played it, but I've heard the OST, I guess you could say, for Pitfall 2. And it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they managed to squeeze a soundtrack like this out of the Atari VCS. It's absolutely incredible. Gotta outlast him. Gotta not mess up for just a few more moments. Yeah, got him. Outlast him. That was actually genuinely getting a bit down to the wire. Let's take a more aggressive approach. And, oh, no. Or run. And run. Yeah, let's take a more aggressive approach. Proceeds to run straight into wall. A la Wile E. Coyote. Okay. Nope. Man, what is wrong with me? I'm getting too excited. And we're just going to cut off right here. I'm the blue line, by the way. You have... Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, in diagonal mode, if you hit the diagonal perfectly, you actually can cross through diagonal lines, which is kind of the risk of drawing diagonal lines. Yeah, I do wish there was like a standard, what's now considered just the standard snake mode, where you start off as 1 pixel, and just the more food you eat, you get longer and longer, and you just have to avoid hitting your own tail as your body goes longer and longer. But we're just gonna go down. Yep. And he's done at this point. He has no way to escape. Nice. I love this music. I love this music. I need to think of some... Oh no, I crossed through once. I tried to got cocky and tried to cross through again. Well, I really did need to... Once I crossed through that diagonal line of the red snake, I had to really nail that. Yeah, I'm getting slow. I'm getting cocky. I need to calm down and not get too full on myself. No, I don't get to really choose which snake I am, so I'm glad that it happens to default me to the blue snake, because that, if I could choose, that's the color I would choose to be. I mean, they characterize this as, like the guy who programmed this said in the interview, he wanted to call this Snakes with a bunch of S's, but for some reason they decided to call this Snafu. I might lose. I might lose. I might lose. I lost. I lost. By like 1 frame. I was like 1 frame away from winning that one. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, I cannot play this game the way you see me playing it here. If I didn't get aggressive there, I ran the risk of actually legit running out of space to snake through. Oh. And he's done already. Oh, no, no, I forgot he could cross through the diagonals. I might be in trouble. If he crosses through the diagonals successfully... Okay, no, he didn't. So we're safe there. Nah, okay. He ran into his own... He failed to cross the diagonal there. That was close. Yeah, he's kind of boxed in at this point. Yeah, this would be really interesting to actually play with a second player. Oh! That was just me being silly. And I do like that they bothered to draw, like, different types of obstacles. They could have just had the same like little block for all these little obstacles we have to weave around. Instead, they went out of their way to draw several different types of them. Yeah, like... Oh, there's the only Atari game I could think of that had music on par with what we hear in this game is Pitfall 2. Which, and the funny thing is, Super Pitfall on the NES had an NES sound hardware rendition of the theme from Pitfall 2 as its main theme. And the theme genuinely... And that's actually the first time I heard that theme when I watched James Rolfe's Angry Video Game Nerd review of Super Pitfall on NES. And that's my first exposure to that musical track. But I died. But legit, the Atari version of that track sounds better. Better executed, more exciting, more like soul-filled than the NES version. Which is ridiculous, because the NES version should have obviously trumped it, but somehow when they composed that musical theme for Pitfall 2 on Atari 2600, they managed to use that hardware to its fullest potential and make a really memorable and thrilling, adventuresome soundtrack for that game, using the most primitive video game hardware. Oh no! I forgot he could cross on those diagonals. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, this probably plays even better on a Intellivision controller with the disc, with the 16 directional disc. Yeah, he looks like a bootleg clone of Luigi. He looks like a unused sprite from a sequel to Wrecking Crew or something like that. I never actually played the game, but I know James Rolfe's review of it made it look pretty miserable. Now, I do appreciate that the Angry Video Game Nerd reviews are made... They're specifically to make a joke out of the more humorous aspects of the game and the experience of playing them. So if there may be some redeeming qualities that maybe didn't make it into the video, but I was always kind of like... I always kind of find it odd that there's a Japanese-developed sequel to Pitfall. And, you know, I'd only played at a friend's house. I played like a PC version of Lode Runner. I need to play that Famicom version of Lode Runner by Hudson Soft. Apparently, like that's a really iconic version of the game. You had to call that hotline to get tips. I know there's a point where you have to start collecting like pips from like a deck of cards. You have to collect like clubs and spades and diamonds and stuff like that. And it's like really, really cryptic as to what you're supposed to do. Yeah, that looks like a game that was made deliberately to rack up minutes on those game tip hotlines back then. Because, like, it's a Pitfall game. It's sort of like, yeah, you're supposed to feel like you're Indiana Jones or something like that. But I think, based on the Angry Video Game Nerd review, it seems like they went way overboard making the secrets you need just to complete the basic game as difficult to find as possible. Alright. Yes, I did legit just play like 30 rounds of that, or whatever I put in. So let's play another game now. Let's play... Okay. Let's quit. Oh no, I keep pressing, because this is laid out like an Xbox controller, not like a Nintendo controller, so I keep hitting B to try to quit. Okay, so quit game. I'm going to go... No. Okay. No, I want to quit the game. Select. No! Okay. A, bottom, okay. So I want to hit B to go back. Oh, there we go. There we go. So let's play... We'll play that... there's only one game. You know, okay, we're just going to play just one round of Astrosmash. Just one. In case there's anyone who didn't see it the first time around. Okay. Alright, now there's a mode... This is the first Intellivision game I ever played back on my iMac in '99. When I downloaded the free version of Intellivision Lives off of the Intellivision website. And this was I mean, this was before Macs was. I mean, even with the original iMac was kind of a resurgence in the Apple brand. But it really wasn't until I'd say 2006 that being a Mac owner didn't make you a total outcast with only a handful of software. It was really the hobbyist scene, I think, that carried a lot of Macintosh development up until around 2006 or so. You really were those hardcore sort of hobbyist programmers who stuck with the Macintosh platform. And then around 2006, you started seeing a lot more mainstream development for Mac. I mean, just the fact that Microsoft Office was available for Mac was really the only reason a lot of people were able to continue using their Macs in an otherwise Windows-based Office environment. I mean, like Office is in like an actual physical office, not Microsoft Office itself. I remember a lot of people, when I had my iBook, being shocked that Microsoft Office was even available for Mac, which is how because I used an iBook throughout high school. An iBook being, the predecessor to the MacBooks you see today, because having a fine motor disability that made handwriting difficult and painful and slow, and the end result looking like a kindergarten student, into high school. That was part of my disability accommodations. And on one hand, like in an era when kids didn't even have even have cell phones, and the idea of a smartphone wasn't even on the horizon. In a lot of ways, having a laptop computer, let alone a Macintosh laptop computer, was a pretty big deal. A lot of a big attention getting kind of thing. But not all the attention was necessarily attention you wanted. But it was a big deal to me just being able to sit at my desk like all the other students and be able to just participate in class, in a relatively normal manner, and not have to, because before that, what I'd have to do is literally had, at first an Apple II, and then later a Macintosh 512C, I think the model was. One of those early 90s, mid-90s all-in-one Mac units. Really, if you know computers at the time, it was really a iconic sort of computer you'd see a lot in school settings, but I'd have to wheel that around. I'd have to go to the computer lab and borrow a Macintosh on a wheeled cart and cart that around to my classroom, and it was very, and I had to sit in the back, and it was very, I wanted to sit at my desk like all the other students, and it was a really huge, massively liberating to be able to do that. Now, for a while before, there was a period where I was using a Cyberco Extreme, which was a short-lived handheld computer platform kind of aimed at tweens. It was basically trying to be the iPhone before the concept of kids even having cell phones was a thing. But I was successfully word processing on my Cyberco Extreme. I love that thing to death. And honestly, even when I got my iBook, my 2001 model iBook, really it wasn't until very recently I imported a Primera DM100 portable word processor from Japan. And it really wasn't until the Primera that I really had the kind of word portable, like not having to lug around a laptop and something. Word processing on a smartphone, even when I carried around a portable keyboard, it never quite did it for me. It wasn't until only like maybe about a month ago now, when I got my Primera DM100, that I really felt liberated to be able to write dynamic, like wherever I went, with having to carry around and like a bunch of extra equipment, something I could just have on a little pouch that I wear on my hip. I also have a little a case that's intended to be used for carrying around a keyboard. But a nice little hard shell case that I can carry around with me. I love the thing, and that's what I use for writing on the go. I take it with me everywhere I go now. So that's me talking about disability equipment, I guess you could say. Well, I guess literally so, in the context of my educational career. And the great thing about the Primera DM100 is that it is all you can do on it is write. There's no internet access. There's no web browser. There's no music, no Facebook, no Twitter. You just can word process on it. You can also do spreadsheets on it. But I love like even in college, it got to a point because I used even by the time you got to college, in the mid to late 2000s, that's more of a time where in the in the 2010s, that's more of an era when it was more common for students to have laptops. But even then, it was like a thing where like I'd have to explain to the professors like I'm not goofing off. I'm actually working and taking notes on the lecture and whatever. Because a lot of students would just be messing around on Facebook or whatever during class, and the teacher would start fussing at them. And I'd have to explain separately like this is I have documented disability paperwork here, and you signed this at the beginning of the semester. So. Even when you don't want anyone else to be using a laptop, you are required to accommodate me because I cannot keep up in a normal classroom environment using handwriting alone. Now, but the cool thing about what I was saying about the Pomera and other devices, which I have, well, I never got to use it in college because I was out of college by the time I found out that this thing existed, because I certainly would have been using it. Was basically a keyboard with a screen. I'll show it off at the end of this session here. The AlphaSmart Neo 2, which is another dedicated word processing device. Not as small and not as, I feel, versatile and portable as the Pomera DM100. But the AlphaSmart has much better battery life off 2 AA's. Like the Pomera might last me a week, the way I use mine, off 2 Duracell Optimums. It is compatible with Panasonic Eneloop batteries, and there's a special setting in the device for using those Panasonic rechargeable batteries. But which I'm gonna get a pair of those down the line. Once I complete a few more jobs and a few more writing jobs and have a little free cash to spend on unnecessary things. But I guess I did buy like a club pack of Panasonic, Duracell Optimum batteries, and they last me close to a week of use on my Pomera DM100. But just the fact that I could go into a classroom setting or a meeting, in an office setting, meeting with clients or whatever, or employers, and I could actually just show them like this device does nothing except for word process. I'm not goofing off or. I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And it's nice to be able to use a machine that does nothing but write and be able to do that without fear of misconceptions, without having to rely on an honor system or, in a classroom setting or an office setting, like having someone, try to look around you to see what you're doing, make sure you're actually doing the work you're supposed to be doing. 17655. 1717665. So that's our last go with Astrosmash for the evening. And we are going to play the other game that I really loved to play on my Intellivision Clashback. We're going to play, if you know me, there's no surprise what we'll be playing next. But if you're familiar with my stream at all, there's no way. We're going to play Pinball. 1983 released. Stand like a statue, become part of the machine, feel the bumpers, and always play clean. It's time to prove how much of a pinball wizard you are across 3 challenging screens. Now, I'm going to read the manual here for Pinball, and got the mood setting music. So Pinball, released in 1983, developed by Min Chao Tran and Bob Newstat. And fact, this game was in development longer than any other Intellivision title. It took well over 2 years to make it to the market. So, right flipper, left flipper, X is for both flippers, okay. Okay, so this is a game I can play with one hand, which is great. Now, this game right here, this I will go as far as to say, was the best and most ambitious dedicated home console simulation of pinball that for not for PC home computers, but for dedicated video game systems for the home. This is the best, most accurate, and best representation of pinball, I think, up until the late Satoru Iwata's pinball for the Famicom and NES. So this is a real milestone. This is leaps and bounds ahead of the Atari 2600 pinball game. And now Atari had a pinball standalone unit that was kind of released as a Pong console type thing. I think the standalone Pong console pinball was probably a better game than the Atari 2600 cartridge for pinball. So, okay, we're gonna copy. Why is there a C in the middle of the copyright screen? That's interesting. We're gonna start players. Just 1. And no, we have to hit E for enter. Now, the original television controller had a number pad on it. To bring up the number pad and simulate that as a replacement for the number pad, you hit the bumper. You just scroll the. They did make a Thomas the Tank Engine pinball game, Clackaboy. It was only released for, I think, DOS and like Amiga or something like that on PC. And I think it only came out in the UK. Now, I do want to play that down the line. I have some stream ideas in mind for play Thomas the Tank Engine pinball. It looks like an okay pinball game, but I like pinball games, so I'm probably going to like it more than most people. And it's like early 90s Thomas pinball. So you hit one of the bumpers and move the D-pad around and hit the A button to enter. There we go. All right, that's all there is to it. Now, how do I... Hold on. Controls. You have to... Both flipper... Okay, I have to hit left on the D-pad to pull back the plunger. But after... No, I have to... Okay, I have to down on the D-pad for the plunger. No. Now, this game... I played this on my CRT in my at my old house, the house, not my last house, but the home I lived in 2 homes ago, my 2 or 3 homes ago, my childhood home. I played right before I moved out. I got this thing, and I was still in college at the time, and I went to a commuter college, so I just and I lived like very close to it, so I just lived at home. During college, but okay, so we're am I gonna have to turn up the audio for this? Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna launch a ball. I just want to hear how it sounds on stream. I'm looking at my VOD now. Alright, that's loud enough. So we'll close the video window. Make sure I'm not dropping frames while I'm still in my browser. And we'll keep on ahead. Okay, so... Yeah, I could just use the X button. And I could play... basically with one hand, which is great. Because just the X button is enough to trigger... Okay. Yeah, I'm going to actually save here, so I don't need to manually hit... Actually, no, I might as well start from here next time. Yeah, there are no difficulty settings or variations. But no, this is a great game to play on a cathode ray tube late at night with the sound of crickets, just like Angry Video Gamer was talking about in one of his Atari-related videos. Oh, yeah, it's a game that Nick Starwind on YouTube recently covered, and I was like, ooh, that's... I mean, there are a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine games. Most of them, frankly, aren't any good. I mean, I'm most interested... If I was going to play some Thomas the Tank Engine games, I'd probably play some of the games from the early 90s, which is, when I probably would have been most likely in the target age range for them. But even as a little kid, I was like, who loved Sega, I was like, there's I remember like kids telling me like, oh, there's a Thomas the Tank Engine game on Genesis. I'm like, really? Like, there's a Thomas game on... What is that game going to be about? How could they possibly make a game about Thomas the Tank Engine fun? Even as a kid, I was kind of skeptical of how good Thomas would be as a video game. And rightfully so, because a lot of those early 90s Thomas games weren't any good. Or were limited quality, we'll say. And game over. Alright. Yeah, I might as well take the score down. That was our first proper... Okay. Yeah, we'll get a feel for the scoring system, and we'll see how good or bad that first proper score is that I bothered recording. I got kind of okay at this when I played on the Intellivision flashback. That was already back in like 2013 or something crazy like that. So players 1 and enter, and here's where we're going to save. And each time we get a new high score, we're going to save over that. So here we go. Okay, no. And launch. I guess, you know what? I guess you do... I guess that you really do need to tilt... Yeah, you really do need to tilt the table, I guess. Oh. Okay, I guess I tilted it too much. Like, I've never played a pinball game where there's an option to tilt the table, but it actually punishes you for doing it too much. Now, I'm kind of... Okay, here we go. And... Oh, no. Yeah, I wish you could just launch the ball quickly. Now, this is going for kind of, like, stretching the play... This is much wider than a typical pinball table. You know what? Hey, you know what? Yeah, that's a cool idea for... Okay. Alright, so we're gonna just load... And by the way, I will, might as well get this out the way. I can't just press a button and do it, or else I'd normally do it every, 20, 30 minutes, but, there we go. Yeah, so the next game is going to be quite the audio-visual spectacle compared to this one. And all I'm going to be... It's kind of like a sprite-based 32-bit style game, Freedom Planet. But I only played about the first half hour of it, and I'm like, oh, this is... And I played it like long before I ever started streaming. I'm like as soon as it came out on Switch, I was like, oh, okay, this is something special. This I want to save to play for my first time on stream. And yeah, if I had come back to this alone, what I might do, I'd love to, if I have an Atari flashback that's HDMI out, and I believe the Atari 2600 pinball game is on there, I'd love to do a stream where maybe I play an hour of Atari 2600 pinball and then an hour of this, and then I'd move on to something to other stuff. It wouldn't just be Yep, that's right. I was gonna mention this at the on my end card, but yeah, in May it's May now, so I think it was May 23rd or 4th or something like that. Was my first stream on Twitch back in 2020, because I had to pass some time during the COVID lockdowns. And so I finally went ahead with my long-held ambition of streaming games I wanted to share on Twitch. I don't know how much Intellivision gameplay is currently available on Twitch. I don't know how many people have streamed Intellivision using the Evercade Versus on Twitch. But this is a system I got specifically to buy these cartridges and to support Intellivision. Not that I support the current holders of Intellivision in general, but hey, releasing the actual classic games and is all we could ask for out of the modern company. And they are and so I just wanted to actually support that and encourage that. And mind you, out of all these years of Intellivision Amico drama, this cartridge right here that you see the case for on top of my Evercade Versus console, these are the only video games the current iteration of modern Intellivision have actually released to market. Man, the physics are really brutal. I mean, I guess, and this game took years to come out. I wonder how much of that was just trying to make sure the physics actually worked on this. Because this came out in the last year that Mattel themselves were actually supporting the Intellivision. Now there's also an there's an SG-1000 pinball. There's a pinball game for the Sega SG-1000 that I could play via I could sideload it onto my Analog Mega SG using an SD card because I just have the ROM on there. Because I'm not paying like hundreds of dollars for pinball on the SG-1000 and to import it from Japan. But the pinball and SG-1000, I have to check the dates. Hold on, actually, let me do it now. Let me just do it now. Okay. SG-1 pinball SG-1000. Oh, Sega Flipper is what the game is called, but it's just a very basic pinball game. You know what? This game released in the same year. Sega Flipper. This released on the same year. You know what's crazy? I just realized this. So, this game released the same year as Sega Flipper. This game came out only 1 year. Well, yeah, I know I do the dorky thing where I keep shoving my glasses back up on my face, whatever. Yeah, this came out. I did not consider this because the Intellivision is such an older console than the Famicom. But this actually came out only 1 year before the Famicom NES version of the Satoru Iwata NES pinball game, which is kind of wild to think about. Now, if this had actually come out earlier in the system's lifespan on schedule, this would have been pretty revolutionary. But the fact that this came out within several months, if you take it down to like when you say like the consecutive year, it could have been as few as like just a few months apart. If one came out in December and the other came out in January. Now, it's a little harder to track the exact month or the exact release date of some of these more early 80s types games, because the idea of a game having a specific release date for marketing purposes wasn't as established of a thing as it would be. It really wasn't such a tightly established thing for marketing purposes to have a specific release day. They'd often just say, oh, coming November 1986, and it would just, once the cartridge just came out in stores, they would sell it. The idea of having a concrete release date, it kind of happened with Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 to an extent, but there's some controversy about that. Like, there's various controversies over the American release date of Super Mario Brothers on the NES, of all things. Even a famous game like that, there wasn't such a concrete, specific release date for it. And then, what I understand, it was really the release of Sonic 2 on Genesis in North America was really kind of the date, or the kind of the beginning of release days having new big games having a concrete, specific release dates. All right, so let's play this. No more than another 15 minutes, and we'll maybe switch to something else for the last quarter hour of the stream. So we're going to load file 1, and you have to hold that plunger so doggone long before you can actually launch the ball. That's one nice thing. NES Pinball does let you control how far back, how hard you hit the ball when you launch it. Oh, no. Okay. Doggone. One, two. Okay, so this Sega Pinball, Atari Pin. Yeah. No, I'm just thinking of 4 8-bit pinball games I could play and do 1 hour per game and play them in sort of chronological order. That would be interesting to do. I could play like an hour of Atari 2600 pinball, then an hour of this, then an hour of SG-1000 pinball, which came out the same year as this, which was called Sega Flipper. And the reason, I don't know which actually hit the market first, but I would probably play Sega Flipper after this one, even if Sega Flipper came out on the market before this version of the Intellivision pinball, because the SG-1000 hardware is kind of based on the ColecoVision, which is a more powerful, more capable system. I never even... when you get a high enough score, you eventually go to other boards. I mean, I haven't even gotten high enough for that. Or far enough for that. Now, let's load. Yeah. So in chronological order, in order of the capabilities of the system, there'd have to be Atari 2600 pinball, then this, then Sega Flipper on the Sega SG-1000, then the NES pinball on the NES. Man, the following year from this, NES pinball came out, and you could really see the revolution in terms of what was possible on NES versus what this Intellivision simulation of the same game. Now, I do love this, and I love playing this in a dark room late at night, just like I am now. And it's not so dark, because I do have one lamp on my console cam there, and then I have another lamp on my computer desk shining on me. I used to have a third LED lamp, but a few weeks ago I knocked it off the desk and broke it. And it's still sitting there because I don't have the heart to throw it out, because it was a really nice lamp. I liked it a lot. But, yeah, it wasn't good enough, because... I mean, I shouldn't have knocked it off the table, but... I mean, not that I knocked it off on purpose, of course, but... Okay. Can we get past that... Okay, so we're gonna actually... I guess I'm gonna try to... Oh my gosh, okay. And launch, okay. No, I waited too long. Yeah, I think this is a pinball game. Unlike NES Pinball does not have a tilt mechanic, and I actually prefer not having a tilt mechanic, because I mean, I never tilted real life pinball machines, and because I know an alarm would go off and stuff if you did. So Launch. Okay. No. Okay. So we're gonna load. Land. Launch. Okay. And launch. Oh, no. I forgot what I was doing there. I have to remember, only use the X button. Because that always makes both flippers go. There's no reason to launch one or the other. There we go. Man, it's so hard not messing up the tilting. And launch. And launch. Okay. Now, I don't know if those spinners in the middle in that Y formation, I don't know if the colors those are on when the ball hits them impacts how they will physically. No. Oh wait. Oh, okay. I had the outlane stopper. That's nice. Oh, this is one of the best sessions I've had so far. Okay. And one of the best balls I've had so far. Man, it is a real accomplishment just keeping the ball in play here. Nope. 6920. Is that a new high score? 69. Yeah, it's new high score. I have not been keeping track of most of my scores because most of them I know are just really, really bad. So let's keep moving. Every time I switch over to my word processor, the word processor that I keep my high scores in, I get so paranoid that I'm going to somehow accidentally close my broadcast software. Alright. So load, quick save, and hold down, and launch. Launch. There we go. That was cool. That was cool. Man, it's like I feel like the physics, they're good physics especially for a system this primitive, but it feels like I'm playing pinball on Jupiter's gravity with all this. Yeah, with the ball just falling so fast. Because I'm still so used to NES pinball. 7170, I think that's a new high score. Yes, 7170. For the first time, we broke 7,000 points. This is pretty pathetic. There are like 3 tables, and we're not even making it to the second table so far. Can we see the second table within the next 18 minutes? We will see. Okay. No. Yeah. Okay, we can actually cradle a ball. That's pretty sophisticated. Oh, and of course I just let it fall straight into the gutter. Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about. I'm just trying to see what if I could at least make it to the second board by the end of the stream. Oh, doggone, I knocked it in there. Alright. Hey, there we go. Oh. Man, that spinner on the right, on that right upper tunnel, gives them serious bonus points. And, I tried to get it in there a second time. No, not happening. We've made it nearly to 70. Yeah, we've broken 7,000, I think, for the second time that I've noticed. Hey, 8,000, wowee. We don't have any more balls, though, I don't think. I don't know, there's something I really like about these sort of unthemed I know with like actual physical pinball tables, it's all about the theming and everything, but there's something I like about these early video pinball games that weren't really trying to be themed in any way, like the Attraction 8750. That's our highest score yet. Yeah, the attraction was just the fact that actually since I'm gonna save over that, which means when we go in, we're gonna have to select one player, enter, and I'm gonna save again. Alright, just the high score is in there. Alright, so pull back the plunger and go. And I pressed A instead of X. I have to remember to always press X because that always activates both flippers. Okay, after this, when we hit 10 minutes, I want to play Astrosmash at least once more. And if my Astrosmash session doesn't last through to the end of the stream, I will go ahead and open up some, play a little Snafu. No. Okay. We're going to... Alright. Yeah, straight through the gut. Yeah, so you can launch the ball. Oh, I wasn't expecting... Okay. I didn't know it would go straight into the tunnel and launch it directly out the other side. I mean, I've done that before, but at least I saw it coming. I mean, I've lost a lot of balls to that tunnel, to be honest. That warp thing. I'm guessing there's no multi-ball, because this is already kind of a push of the Intellivision's limits. Let alone having multiple balls for the computer to keep track of. Oh man, I didn't even get to see what the high score was. I accidentally skipped through that. Okay. And, no. Whenever I try to launch off the very tip of the flipper, I feel like I'm just too slow. Now, let's see. I never got to the second or third table in this, but I never felt like I was having this hard a time when I played this on Intellivision Flashback. But maybe I was just so happy to even be playing the game when I got the Intellivision Flashback. To be playing it with the original controller, and there we go. There we go. If we break through all of those barriers up there, we're going to get a ton of bonus points. That'll probably single-handedly give us our best score yet. Load. Alright. If this goes, once we're sub 10 minutes to left. Oh, I guess I keep forgetting to do this. I need to make it. I mean, it's almost no point now, but break in, more like end in. Excuse me. Sorry, anyone watching who thought, oh, I'm just taking a break in. No, I've been streaming since 5, and I do want to end the stream in another 10 minutes. Hey, okay, we're almost at 5,000. Hey, 50. No, why we're straight into the outlane? Come on. Alright. Alright, so this is our last game. One more. No, because, okay. So we know for sure this is concrete. Our last game of pinball today. Okay, I'm putting my all into this one. Serious time. Let's try to beat our high score of the day. We're not off to a great start. Oh my gosh, it just shoots the ball straight into the gutter, I swear. Oh my gosh. Like, why are like the two main targets? Oh, you gave a shot to making an icebox cake. Are you right? You'll send a photo later. You layered vanilla wafer cookies, vanilla pudding, strawberries, and True Whip, which is a healthy alternative to Cool Whip. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's Cool Whip. Like, they can't even like call it whipped cream. They have to call it like whipped dairy themed topping substitute byproduct substance stuff. Like, they can't even call it actual whipped cream. No. Let's be now let's just one round of Astrosmash. Just one. Alright, now this game, for those who didn't see it before, this game, you are, well, I died before it could even happen, but you don't die if a meteor hits the bottom of the screen, you're just deducted points. So the idea is actually to prioritize the higher paying targets as opposed to just trying to kill everything on screen, because you cannot kill everything on screen. It's by a matter of design. Your final score once you get the game over is not determined in terms of, yeah, your final score won't be in terms of your final score, but in terms of your maximum score. So if you get all the way to 10,000, and then by the end you're down to only 3,000, your final score will be counted as the highest, your apex score of that session. Okay, so gonna get these little ones here. Now I can press the button to randomly warp to a spot on the screen. So if I'm in a sticky situation, like once I did successfully use it to... No! Okay. You can use... Yeah, so the spinning smart bombs, if those hit the bottom of the screen, you instantly lose a cannon. If those... Yeah, those big bombs... Now, if those little tiny smart bombs, those will just home in on your ship. And that's a situation where I've never successfully used the hyperspace feature, that's the random warp, to evade the smart bombs. And... And I don't know if the different colors mean anything in terms of what points they're worth. I know the bigger ones are worth more than the smaller ones. This is actually the first Intellivision game I played, and I played it on my iMac because there was a free demo of the Intellivision Live sort of emulator thing that we saw a news clip about earlier in the stream, back when that first came out, and I guess I downloaded mine in like '99, so that had to be, because I know Electric Playground was around in the '90s, because they were reviewing, I know of them from like their sort of, I guess, later period when they were running on Tech TV and G4, but they did have, oh my goodness, they did have coverage of stuff we watched on the Mecha stream of Star Fox 64, where Tommy Tallarico was complaining about that the characters were all animals, which is like such a weirdly... It's especially ironic. Okay, I guess that's just him getting older and becoming maybe a bit more of a boomer, I guess, as he got... I don't know. But, yeah, Tommy Tallarico knocked on Star Fox 64 for having, like, anthropomorphic animal characters. And then on the doggone Amico, he's pushing that Fox and Forest game where you play as like a Disney's Robin Hood-esque bipedal fox. That was actually just an uglier reskin of a pixel art game that was released on mobile called, or on Steam, I think, called Fox and Forest. And they put an uglier non-pixel art style over it, called it Finnegan Fox. And we're trying to argue that because they put a new art style over it, over the exact same title, that it's now it can be considered an Amico exclusive. Okay, so... Oh my goodness, can I keep this game running? Oh, for the entire rest of the stream. Because you do rack up a lot of lives very quickly, because the focus isn't on trying to survive as much as it is on having the right combination of pieces falling, of targets missing and hitting the targets that matter. Why do I keep running straight into it? My goodness. And... oh man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Will this be a peak game for me? Because I can't tell... I can't keep an eye on my score every second, so I can't... Oh no! I tried to warp out the way, but it was too late. Okay. Now, the inversion... This game actually came bundled with a secondary mode that they... I guess dummied out of the final game because Mattel's lawyers were afraid it was too similar to Atari's Asteroids. And that's another thing I was I was saying about this game earlier, is that while Defender, you actually are destroying alien spaceships, so you are still killing sapient beings. Whereas this, you're not actually hurting anyone. This is purely defensive. You're destroying these meteors that are going to strike your planet, and then you're also fighting these you're taking out these smart bombs and these big bombs that are falling as well. So this is a purely defensive game. So it's truly, I guess you could say, really non-violent. There's no destructive or aggressive intention. These you are just defending your planet from hazards. I see. Look at this. I have. Okay, I tried to use my. Okay, I warped right in the front of that one. It's always a risk when you use the warp, or the hyperspace as they call it. Now, if I get under 9, I think. Oh my goodness! What? I don't even see what hit me. I don't. Okay. Yeah, whenever those white spinning bombs appear, I absolutely have to take those out. Because if they touch the bottom of the screen, that's an instant lost cannon. Yeah, so you could guess that maybe an imperious alien race is trying to drop meteors on our planet. Maybe that's what's going on? Because it's like, yeah, all these meteors are falling, but these bombs seem very concerned with destroying the cannon, whereas the meteors are just kind of falling at random. If this game was only meteors, you could very easily just pass this whole scenario off as just a natural disaster that you're helping to defend against. There was just a meteor shower and there's a bunch of meteorites falling to Earth. But, okay, there we go. Oh my goodness. And lost cannon. Yeah, the little ones, you just have to dodge them. The big ones, actually, if they hit anywhere on the screen, you instantly lose a cannon. Alright, we're gonna play this out. We're gonna play this till game over. Or even though our time just ran out. Oh, man! Okay, I think this is a new... I don't think we've ever gotten high enough that we got the baby blue before. Okay. Oh my goodness. We're gonna get to 20,000. And lost ship. I have to focus on just surviving as long as I can, which means taking out those bombs. No, I could not line up properly to get the shot in. Oh man, this is the most intense gameplay session I've had of anything in quite a while. No, this is like the most intense I've... Oh my goodness, this is the most intense I've felt since the Sonic single credit attempts. Which I do need to do another stream of. I need to block out another... schedule and put another stream for Sonic single credit attempts on the schedule. But there's none on the schedule right now. And I do have my streams planned out through to the end of July right now. Because I like to plan my streams well in advance. Oh no, I'm done. Okay. We surpassed 21,000. I wonder what our peak score is gonna... Oh my... Like a space like a flying saucer. Like an actual enemy ship appeared on screen. That's something I've never seen before in Astrosmash. And I was not ready for that threat. Yeah, so apparently this is not... You can't... 22,250. Okay, so... That lasted a lot longer than I planned on it lasting, and I do not mind that one bit. So, my the next stream is going to be on the 7th, this coming Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will be playing just a single session of Panel de Pon. Usually my single, like, marathon mode sessions do not last more than... Like, if I break a half hour, it's kind of... usually, like, 20 minutes to a half hour. And then I'll be digging into Freedom Planet, which is sort of a PlayStation-style... Like, it's something that could have come out on PlayStation or Saturn, a side-scrolling, sprite-based game, kind of inspired by the Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog games, but with much better animation, bigger characters. That has actually full voice acting, and a lot more of an emphasis on the storyline and plot developments of the games, and the sort of lore of the characters, and the unfolding storyline. So, let's see. I think I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream there. So I will see you all on Saturday, hopefully. And thank you very much for watching.